Distinguished guests, good morning. Mwaramutse. Amazing, amazing. My name is Naringwa Fenamothoni, and I'm very excited to be standing in front of you today because this is the first ever event to be happening of this kind, and we hope that it's going to be happening annually. So I'm very excited to be inviting you to the very first MSME Growth Symposium. And this is not just an event on our calendars. But for the first time, we have stakeholders across government, private sector, financial institutions, development partners, and even you, entrepreneurs, coming together in one space with a common mission of how do we build and drive a thriving entrepreneurship ecosystem here in Rwanda. I'm very excited for the conversations that will be happening. And the plan is to have it annually. It is being organized by Rwanda's Ministry of Trade and Industry, as well as the Mastercard Foundation and Access to Finance Rwanda in partnership with ES Partners, BPN, and Aceli Africa. Even before we go further, let's appreciate them with a big round of applause. Shortly, we're going to start with getting remarks. Right after that, we will dive into presentations and we'll also have a panel discussion. But I really want to emphasize that the heart of today's conversation is you, the entrepreneur. We'll be sharing statistics, we'll be sharing data. These reports are really a tool to bridge the gap between the vision and the reality of MSMEs here in Rwanda. But you live the reality. So I want to encourage you, when we do have time for open floor discussions, please ask questions, challenge these findings, share from your own personal experiences, because we want to live here with a collective way forward. So to open this important convening, I am now very excited to invite to the podium Mr. Iachu Jean Bosco, the CEO of Access to Finance Rwanda. Let's appreciate him as he comes to the front.
Country Director, Mastercard Foundation, Chief Technical Advisor to the Ministry of Trade and Industry, representing Honorable Minister, CEOs and Managing Directors of financial institutions, esteemed representatives of development partners and government institutions, dear entrepreneurs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Mwaramutse. So it's my great honor and delight to welcome you all to this inaugural MSME Growth Symposium 2025, which is a flagship annual event that we are planning and delivering today. And this event is designed to first facilitate high-level policy discussions that drive the growth and sustainability of MSMEs. It's also a platform to share research insights and evidence, practical experiences, working practices, not best practices, to inform strategies and interventions. But also it's a platform to strengthen collaboration between or among government institutions, the private sector here present, development partners, financial institutions, and entrepreneurs to address challenges and unlock new growth opportunities for MSMEs. According to the recent Rwanda establishment census that was carried out in 2023 by NISR, the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, our country is home to around 270,000 enterprises, of which 99.8% are MSMEs. This means that nearly all private enterprises in Rwanda fall into the category of MSMEs. you can understand that MSMEs are not only the backbone of the Rwandan economy, but also they play a critical role in national development. They are drivers of innovation, they are creators of jobs, and key enablers of inclusive growth. Moreover, MSMEs help build economic resilience by reducing our reliance on external supply of goods and services or foreign investment. As they grow, they help communities thrive, improving the livelihoods of business owners, their families, and the wider society. So despite their immense potential and support to the economy, MSMEs continue to face significant challenges, particularly in accessing appropriate capital, accessing business growth support and tools that would allow them to scale. And that's why a platform like this Symposium is very essential. And as I highlighted, this space really where entrepreneurs mainly can share their experiences and their concerns and their worries and their frustrations and voice their needs and engage with all of us stakeholders in this space, because we are committed, and I cannot doubt, to really to supporting their growth. So together with our partners, we believe that empowering MSMEs is not just an economic imperative. It is a central pillar of Rwanda's development agenda and a driver of long-term social transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, today's discussions are going to center on key practical research findings, including the launch of our first ever Rwanda MSME FinMap report, the Data for Growth study, and La Finance Engage initiative by our very important partner, Entrepreneurial Solutions Partners, ESP, under the Grow to Scale program that we co-implement. And the central bank, so the second study, the third one, which also will talk about the central bank regulations affecting agri-SMEs financing by our key partner, Aceli Africa. And those really are giving insights or evidence that really will awaken some of the topical discussions I know we have always in our boardrooms or on the market. But that really will make sure that we tackle the right and the practical challenges that we see in the market. So these reports provide in-depth view of both the demand, the supply, and regulatory sides of MSME financing, but also they offer us the data we need to design targeted and evidence-based solutions. So the findings clearly show that barriers such as collateral requirements, high costs of capital, complex application processes and requirements, all of those, but also limited professional business management capabilities on the side of the SMEs and financial literacy, they continue to hinder MSMEs' ability to grow and access appropriate capital. And I believe that most of us here, we are working tirelessly to address such challenges. With the stakeholders gathered here today, I have no doubt, and I'm confident we can actually create together practical and sustainable solutions that support a more enabling entrepreneurial ecosystem in Rwanda. So before I conclude, allow me to sincerely thank all our partners who made this event possible. I'll start with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Mastercard Foundation, ESP, BPN Rwanda, and Aceli Africa. So thank you very much for partnering with us to have this gathering. At AFR, we are also proud to collaborate with partners such as Mastercard Foundation, the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA, through the Embassy of Sweden in Rwanda, Jazzy Offices Aid and Co-Develop, to design and deliver financing solutions that help MSMEs thrive. With these wonderful partners, we have deployed very transformational interventions that are supporting MSMEs in their growth journey, such as business development and investment readiness support, guarantee schemes, digital public infrastructures that enable the growth of MSMEs, and technical assistance to financial institutions, regulators, and policymakers. So to the entrepreneurs here present today, please know that your challenges are hard, they are known, and your growth is our priority. We are committed as key stakeholders here present, together with the different partners I've talked about, to addressing the barriers that stand in your way. So with this, I wish us all insightful and action-oriented discussions today. Murakoze cyane. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Yachu, for your remarks and for really emphasizing that the heart of today is you, the entrepreneur. We want this to be a two-way conversation, not only having speakers standing here at the podium. And you have also just emphasized that through dialogues like this, through platforms and partnerships like this, we can progressively build and bridge the gaps that are present. I am now very much delighted to welcome to the stage Mr. Nwadi Ivan, the Country Director of Mastercard Foundation Rwanda, to deliver his remarks. Let's appreciate him with a round of applause as he comes.
Representatives of government, institutions present, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Sweden, CEO Access Finance Rwanda, CEOs of financial institutions, development financial institutions, and ecosystem partners, esteemed entrepreneurs and captains of industry, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Mwaramutse. That's better. On behalf of the Mastercard Foundation, I would like to thank the government of Rwanda, which through the Ministry of Trade and Industry in partnership with Access to Finance and our Grow to Scale program partners for convening this inaugural MSME Growth Symposium alongside the launch of the Rwanda MSME FinMap 2024 report. Today is about translating evidence into action so that Rwanda's entrepreneurial drive contributes to a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem, one that generates jobs, more opportunities, and greater dignity for all. Why are we here? MSMEs are the heartbeat of Rwanda's economy, making up the vast majority of enterprises, contributing significantly to GDP, sustaining millions of livelihoods. Rwanda's bold 2050 vision and national strategy for transformation 2 places SMEs at the center of its ambitions to create 1.25 million jobs, new jobs for young people. This is why we are convening here, and this is why it matters. As we anticipate the presentation of the Rwanda MSME FinMap 2024 report, I invite us to listen with 3 product design lenses. One is on the design fit, because we know that access alone is not enough. Products should be designed to fit cash flow rhythms, seasonality, and the reality of smaller firms. The other lens is bridging the trust gap. Do our processes, timelines, collateral requirements build confidence, or do they create barriers that keep especially the youth and young women-led businesses from applying at all? I would even further push it in terms of depth of the design of the products that we're making. Beyond the loans, are there other tools we should be thinking about, like asset leasing, receivable finance, and supply chain finance? Because these could make a huge difference for those who are not able to access the conventional kind of loans. So as we listen to the insights and think about these three lenses, think of them as design prompts for all of us, not a criticism for individual actors. So hypothetically, consider a young woman running a food commodity enterprise. Her phone shows clear trail of transactions. Her customers are loyal. Her orders spike with festivals, but may settle back afterwards. What she needs is small working capital. What could we do in terms of leveraging the strength of her mobile money transaction history, priced fairly with repayments that are flexible during seasons of lower transaction? If we could figure that out, I'm sure we can unlock thousands of jobs for women in the similar kind of category. How does this connect to the Young Africa Works? Mastercard Foundation's mission is to enable young people, especially young women, to access dignified and fulfilling work. In Rwanda, our country roadmap places MSMEs and entrepreneurship development at the center of our development plan. So guided by today's evidence, we would like to work with the government and financial sector regulator, Access to Finance Rwanda, development finance institutions, and other ecosystem partners to focus on women-owned MSMEs to co-create financing pathways that are digitally enabled, leveraging transaction data to responsibly underwrite small working capital needs. We'd like to provide flexibility in repayments, offering grace periods and seasonal schedules where business cycles require them, while protecting both the borrower and the financier. Today is a starting point. This conversation will continue in November at the Young Africa Works Dialogue, where we'll bring all policymakers, financial institutions, young women-led MSME networks, and ecosystem partners together to have genuine conversations on these barriers and make commitments to address them. In the lead up to this and beyond, the foundation is conducting stakeholder engagements with key actors to turn today's insights into coordinated action. What does success look like? Success for these MSMEs growth symposium will be delivered when a young woman finds the right product in clear language, submits a short digital application, receives a timely decision, and repays on schedule according to the reality of her business. It could be a supplier who paid on time because receivables can be financed. Ultimately, it is dignified jobs that endure. A compact for coordinating innovation. Government, regulators, financial institution, development partners, and MSME platforms each have a role to play. From enabling innovation, sharing risk to last mile reach and feedback, When aligned, these efforts will unlock finance that truly serves young people, especially women-led enterprises. The Mastercard Foundation is honored to co-convene this symposium with the Ministry of Trade and Industry and Access to Finance Rwanda. Our role includes supporting evidence generation, such as FinMap and the Data for Growth Study, investing through programs like Grow to Scale, which expand access to finance and enterprise growth. So starting today, it is from evidence to action. When AFR presents the FinMap 2024 findings, let us each note at least two things. One insight that has surprised us, one action we can take within our organization over the next 90 days. If we could live here with a short shared action list and meet again and check in on the progress, we will have honored the hard work of those that have produced these insights. Let's use the FinMap 2024 as our baseline and La Finance Engage, packed as a coordination platform to move quickly from diagnosis to delivery so that MSMEs, especially young entrepreneurs, can find information, apply with confidence, and receive finance that matches their growth cycle. If we get this right, the dividends are clear. Stronger MSMEs, more resilient jobs, and faster progress towards Rwanda's Vision 2050. In closing, to the entrepreneurs who power Rwanda's economy, we see you, we learn from you, and we are committed to designing with you. To our partners across the board, today is a chance to align, simplify, and scale what works. It is my privilege to invite Access to Finance to present the Rwanda MSME FinMap 2024 report. Murakoze cyane.
Mwari for that. He's already even cued the first presentation. I just want to emphasize on the crucial things. We're going to have three different presentations. The first one is going to be on the Rwanda MSME FinMap reports, as it has been mentioned. We'll also have the presentation on the effect of the central bank policies on lending to agricultural SMEs. And the last presentation will be on data for growth study findings. And we'll also get to know more about La Finance Engage initiative that Mr. Yachu briefly mentioned on. And I want to emphasize, right after all the three presentations, we will have open floor discussion. Yes, remember today's conversation is about you, the doer. Yes, this data, the research, the policies alone cannot create impact, but collectively, putting our voices together, that's when we can drive change. Are we in agreement? We'll be as engaging as possible? Yes? Amazing. We're now ready for the first presentation. Help me welcome to the stage Mr. John Rirahira, Head of Research and Information at Access to Finance Rwanda.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and privilege to be given this opportunity to share some insight, some findings from this first ever, as our CEO said, Rwanda MSME FinMap 2024. It is actually research that was conducted in partnership with other members of the ecosystem, and we really appreciate the role that they played. I mean, the members of the technical and the steering committee that provided the overall guidance throughout this process. I won't go much into these other things that were clearly said, clearly explained by the CEO, but also Mastercard. Today is actually playing the partial role of giving the insight and then the action will follow, as it was clearly explained. I think this, our CEO touched this clearly. MSME constitute a backbone of many economies, and especially the developing economies. And these globally, they represent 90% of the enterprises, 70% of the employment, but also contribute 50% to the GDP. In sub-Saharan Africa, it's a similar trend where we have 50% contribution to the GDP and 80% contribution to the job. So 80%. So we also fall under this category. So 80% of the employment that can be generated are from the MSMEs. Unfortunately, there is still a gap, a big gap in terms of financing these MSMEs. And this could be estimated at 6 trillion globally. But that's only taking the formal MSME. Adding the informal MSME, then it would reach up to 8 trillion financing gap. We now say, I think that's where the bigger action has to come. So to fill this gap, ensure that they have what is required in terms of accessing finance and grow and create jobs and contribute to the economy as it is stated. So the main objective of this MSME FinMap is mainly to assess how MSME engage with the financial institutions, both from, especially the formal financial institutions, but also benchmark. This is like, it would be treated as the baseline, setting the benchmark for future measurement of financial inclusion of MSMEs. So we mainly want to see, to measure or benchmark the extent to which MSME have access and use financial institutions and services, of course. In terms of the methodology, I won't dwell much in that. We appreciate the contribution of different partners of the private sector in inputting, but also the banking sector in really helping us design the right question that will bring the information that is required in the market. So in terms of coverage, we covered a sample of 2,116 MSMEs, but later, of course, this was selected using the sample frame from the NISR from the 2023 establishment census. Then we weighted the sample, which was estimated to now 2,068 and 726 MSME in the country. That was back in 2024. So 2 years, or 1 year after the MSME census was conducted by NISR. So for this specific research, so the weighting is limited to the provincial level. We didn't go back up to a representation of the district. So the analysis that is done here is at provincial level. So the definition of the MSMEs. So we applied, of course, there are different criteria that enters into play when we want to define the MSMEs. But in this case, we used the NISR definition of MSMEs. That is micro, just the level of the number of employees. But there are other aspects such as the turnover that we did not want to include because sometimes this can be the reliability can also be challenged. So I think we use this definition that is kind of commonly used here. But employees and the time spent on employment also vary from one employee to the other, and this based also on the type of business that is conducted. So we wanted to bring, there are those that are casual, others that are partial. So we want to bring them to the similar standard, and we use the full-time equivalent workers using this formula that is scientifically accepted. So that's one. So everything that is reported in terms of employment and categorization is also based on the full-time now, because everything has been brought to the full-time. So we did not cover any large-scale enterprise here in this context. And we believe that they have great access and use of financial services than the ones we're discussing here. So in terms of distribution, they follow the same pattern that was highlighted by our CEO, where the majority, like more than 90%, 91% represent a micro, small represent 7.2, and a medium only 1.3%. So the distribution across the provinces, they vary, with Kigali, of course, being on the top with 25 or 24%, while others, the list is there's a northern province with 15%. In terms of rural-urban, similar, comparable, around 49, 51, but in the it's similar proportion, which is 50 to 50 distribution. In Kigali, of course, if we were to disaggregate the region, we will see that the majority of enterprises are simply micro. And small, slightly higher, but the medium are still very, very low. So I think we need to now support the micro so that they can graduate into small, and small so that they also graduate into medium. Why not even jumping from micro to medium? It also depends on how we support them and the quality of the support that is provided to them. We wanted to estimate a bit to show how much these MSME are employing currently, and the total of employment that we managed to estimate was around 712,000 employees. But also these are the ones that are paid, but the unpaid. Looking at the unpaid, we also have like around 4,000 jobs. So once empowered, I think these can generate a lot of jobs. So I think, again, one action will be towards this, as said by Mastercard. Looking at the turnover, they vary, of course, from the size, but also the expenses also vary from the size. And with the medium being higher, but on average, we have the turnover of 8 million. And expenses are around 3, but they vary. Of course, we've brought everything together, but they vary from the size as well. And we asked a question around the profit and losses they're able to make. Surprisingly, I think we realized that like 50% of the enterprises are able to make up to 1 million. But of course, here we've, of course, put together the micro, the small, but also medium, of course, and these micro who that makes very little money in terms of profit, that have been able to pull down the other categories. But we cannot see that those that make a profit of 20 million is just 1.3% of the enterprises here. So I think we need to shift maybe the 50% goes down where we have around 20 million or maybe more than 10 million. So 50%, I think we'll be very happy. And let's hope that in the next FinMap, maybe in 2 to 3 years to come, I think we need to see more of this. The classification and formality of enterprise. This is something that is debatable, and there are many criteria that are used to classify whether MSMEs are formal or informal. But if we are strict and have all these 4 criteria ticked in green, then we'll not be able to get many, especially on the macro side and small size side of businesses. So the formality, of course, that's why we used a staged or a ladder where we have those that fulfill all the 4 criteria, others that have at least 50%, and the one that has maybe 25% of the criteria. So we have the formal. The fully formal, of course, they also vary. So with the medium. Medium are likely to be formal than, but also small than the micro. So if we were to be strict, then we'll qualify that only 23% of the micro enterprises are formal. Others would be treated as informal. Of course, looking at the different criteria. So that's why we put a bit of balance. But currently, we don't have any enterprises that is informal on the side of a medium side, while we have like 15% of micro who are completely informal. So I think we need to balance. But again, I think applying with strict definition, then the majority of the enterprise would be classified as informal. Capital ownership, Rwandans are the majority, representing 99%. We have other nationalities of the MSMEs that we've managed to survey, including the Ugandans, Burundians, and DRC, but other nationalities. The motivation of starting a business, that was also one of the questions that we asked. And there are several reasons for starting a business. And the most interesting of them is that they're very much driven by making money, make more money. So they believe that, which is good, which is very good. Honestly, no one would, everyone, I think it's a wish of everyone having enough money. So others, the other one is being your own boss, and surprisingly, there are those that are unemployed or wait to be fired on jobs in order to create a business. So I think this should come as an option, probably the number one option, instead of, so not finding yourself in a situation where you're unemployed or fired from or lost your job to start a business. I think that's where we need to play a lot in terms of building the capacity, the skills. So BDSPs have to really play a critical role here. The source of money used in starting a business, the majority is personal savings. Personal savings, that means that many people started very small. So with personal saving, of course, the amount of money that we're all able to save, for a business, I think something that is small. So majority of them started small and they grew up. And as you see in the report, the average time spent in business, of course, you see some have already more than 10 years and they're still small. So that also tells a story that is coherent with these findings. But very few, around 13% started with a loan. So again, this also will also tell a story that maybe there are some challenges that these enterprises are facing in accessing finances for them to start a business. It's another, I think, proof that we need to do a lot. We need to put in place mechanism for allowing them to start businesses and accessing finances that are required. In terms of ownership by gender, very huge gap taken together. Women represent only 36% of the MSMEs, but if we go to medium-sized enterprises, another story, only 20% of enterprises are owned by women. I think also as we empower, as we design mechanisms for addressing these challenges, let's also be intentional and mindful to supporting women in business. Youth, I'm sure very many people will be interested in youth. Youth are very much into small and medium. None in our sample own medium enterprises. That's our sample. Of course, it does not say that everything, it's not a survey, but you can see. So I think the majority of enterprises are owned by adult people more than 30 years of age. So again, the support is required here as well. Education. The education is an important factor here. And as we grow, as we move from micro to medium enterprises, you see that education is also playing a very crucial role with people with higher education qualifying to lead medium-sized businesses and small businesses. So, like for those that did university, you'll see that funding show that those that did the owners with higher education represent 75% for the medium and 50% of micro. Only 13% of micro enterprises are owned by people with university. So the education is an important factor for driving growth of a business. These are the major challenges, and we'll come to those ones. There are those that are financially related and others that are non-financial challenges. And I will come back to that when dealing with the recommendation. Let me go quickly. So looking at the use and use of financial services now, and which is what we want, the core aspect of this research. So we wanted to, where do different sized of business fit more in terms of access to financial services? Taking all together, you'll see that it's more skewed to accessing mobile money services. If we take all together, and remember, most of them are micro. 90% of our enterprises we're talking about here are micro. So they're very, very agile and easy in using the mobile money services. But again, I think that's a sort of micro. But if we go to we grow big in size, the small and medium-sized enterprises tend more to use banks than the micro. So I think in targeting, also in making available financial services, I think we know to be intentional. Where do we get the micro? What are the mechanisms and channels of accessing financial services that we can reach most of them? So banks for small and for medium enterprises, while micro, you'll go more into mobile money. So designing some product services that are more linked to mobile money services would be very great in this case. We wanted to know whether the MSMEs have business account. Sometimes it's very hard to even make a distinction between the account of the owner and the account of the business. So only 25% of them have business account in this case. But also this differ from the size. So micro, it's only 20%, while medium, it's more than 85% have business account, while others, so the remaining can use, so it is similar, the same account used by, or the owner is the same account of the business. Again, I think this is also another challenge to be addressed by the BDSP as well. So there are a number of questions that we asked on how the perception of the respondents on different areas of on how they see the interaction with the financial sector, financial services. So it's really surprising that for micro, like 52% of the micro businesses say that banks' charges are very high. It's a perception. Could be true or not, and but also some other positive outcomes, such as financial institutions produce services that are designed to people like me. Yeah, which is globally good across, and but also some other challenges that we can see as well. So women are less likely to be to obtain business loan from a bank. It's a perception. I think also talking to some of the other findings that exist in terms of gender norms that exist in the supply of financial services. I think this is another challenge, I think, to look at. So in terms of financial inclusion, we would say that taking all the enterprises together, about 17.5% are excluded from financial services. But who are excluded? Mainly those that are excluded are the micro ones. So the micro, like around 20% of them are excluded, but we don't have any enterprise that is excluded as medium-sized. So as we grow bigger, we access to opportunities and financial services, and we are more likely to be financially included. Only 1% of small enterprises is excluded. So, but again, as we increase in the size, also we also change. I think there is a very important mindset to note here. Only 35% use bank services on micro, while 90% of medium size rely on bank services. So in terms of access is huge. Access is huge, but as we said, business bank account, very limited, 12% of micro, very challenging. Use of financial services, of course, they can use them here. The use is higher than the percentage that have business account. That means that, of course, we've also added those that use the owner's business account as the business account. So, but if we go to bank credit services, we're still very low. Of course, with higher proportions of medium-sized using these services, credit services from banks, but again, still very low generally, with only 7% of micro. That represent 90% of our businesses case here. So a lot has to be done in this case. Similar trend with the mobile money access is good, but again, I think there is still an issue in separating the account of a business and the account of the owners of the business. Payment also vary from one size to the other, the size of the enterprises, with micro having making and receiving digital payments who are around 67 and 99% of medium size. So as we grow, we also use digital services. Surprisingly, we have like more than 30% of micro enterprises that still rely on cash or in-kind transactions only. Savings, there is owners are saving, but for different reasons, and some of them being expanding the business, which is very good. Like 66%, they are saving for expanding their businesses. This is something that is okay, yeah. And overall, 71% are saving. Yeah, you'll see others. It's just management or other operations of the business. So I think this is great. So things that should be capitalized on by our BDSP. In terms of credit, how many people are accessing credit? Still very low. Taken together, only 80% have accessed credit from the banks and 15% from other form of financial services. So with that, I think still very low. Again, they vary from the size from one size to the other, and micro being really left behind. So overall, we have 60% that did not borrow any money. Of course, not everyone needs money, but the majority need money, but they can't access money because they can't access those financial services due to other constraints that are facing them. This is by gender. The majority, of course, borrowing from other form of financial services, but also informal sources. With women, 43% borrowing from informal sources, and there are those that still borrow from family and friends. Insurance, still very low generally, with only less than 10% having access to insurance, but also they vary from one size to the other. While we only have 5% of micro enterprises saving, insured rather, the medium enterprises proportion that are insured is more than 75%, which is very good. So as we grow, they are capable of really acquiring financial services that are also adapted to their needs. So, but also this also is a great opportunity for the insurance sector to really leverage this and take this as an opportunity and design products that fit the need or different size of the businesses. There are challenges and high interest rate on loan, complex loan application process, lack of collateral, picking as the first challenges limiting MSMEs access to financial services and grow. So we also looked at the financial health and sophistication index, showing that the extent to which MSMEs are resilient and are coping with any shocks. There is a range of indicators that we put together and compute this index. And the majority of like 50%, it's actually not 50. So 50% are extremely vulnerable, but we can add 40% that are still vulnerable. So we only have those who would wish to see more healthy enterprises. And this is, if we go to the medium size, we have 41% of enterprise, medium size enterprises that are healthy, 23 of small one healthy, but only 1%. If we compute these put together, 10 indicators put together to generate this, we only have 1.1% of micro enterprises that are healthy. So still have challenges. I think once there is a small shock, then everything collapses. So I think we need also to ensure that we have a mechanism in place building the resilience of these, especially the small enterprises, to shocks. So we would wish to see not any red part of these bars here that we see. So we want to see more coping and more healthy enterprises. So as I conclude, there is a lot that can be done, but we have on access to finance, we have 83% of MSMEs that's expressing the number of challenges preventing them from accessing financial services, and these include high interest rate and collaterals, among others. And we think that there is a need for lending rule on collateral to be relaxed a bit, and probably introducing the risk-based pricing model. So and that flexibility will also touch the amount of money that is required, but also the type of assets. They could vary from one enterprise to the other. There are those that are movable, others that are movable that can be also introduced. But also the asset discount rate is also vary from one area to the other. So like a house that is here in Kigali and a house that is in rural area, they are discounted differently. So I think we need also to really do something that around that. So we want to promote the use of micro-lending. Micro-lending would help, and this is one of the approaches that is used in countries such as Bangladesh and Indonesia, where lenders would give a small amount of money and track the record and the behavior of the businesses. Once the trust is built, then you can add amount of money and increase depending on the timeliness of repayment. We think that there is need for simplifying the application process, especially reducing the reliance on collateral, because there are other alternatives, leveraging on existing data or the transaction that was well explained by Mastercard. that also is also possible once we have a strong credit reference bureau that also is requires some support in order to generate the right information on the different behavior of clients. On the cost of finance, still very high. So we think there is a need to promote more accessible and affordable financing options. Of course, other options can be introduced, including credit guarantee schemes, interest rate subsidy, but also concessional loan where applicable. But also build the ecosystem to for sources of capital such as angel network, venture capital, but also private equity is also needed. It was also said that there's a need to design friendly products that also need the different size of the businesses, but also the interest rate that also reflect the different sectors and based, of course, on specific risk that is also associated with the business that is being implemented. So the rigidity of a range of loans, 66% of respondents say that lenders don't understand when enterprises fail to make repayments. So I think it's a perception aspect, but also we need to ensure that the flexi loans and slightly higher interest can be used instead of really bringing in, hitting them with penalties. So I think there is also a way of relaxing that. I think there is a lot of recommendation, but also I would talk about the opportunity of insurance that I highlighted, but more specifically, I don't want to go into the non-financial, such as internet, tax, access, electricity, trade, and other regulations. But I want to come back to this on the BDSP, availability of business development services that are required. Of course, we need to decentralize these services to, especially to the rural area, but ensure that the suppliers of these services have the right capacity to really talk to the need of different enterprises, especially those in rural area. So thank you so much. Murakoze-chan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John, for that detailed presentation. This is really the first ever comprehensive mapping of the MSME financial inclusion in Rwanda, based on data, as he mentioned, from over 2,000 enterprises across the country. And now we're going to dive right into the next presentation that will be on a topic that directly influences SME growth. We will be looking at the effect of the central bank policies on lending of agricultural SMEs. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Ms. Janet Kanyambo, Country Director of Aceli Africa, Rwanda. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes.
Good morning, everyone. Wow. Before I start, I would like to recognize our MD, Freddie. He's based in Nairobi, so he has come today for this event. My presentation is about the central bank policies and regulations that affect agriculture financing. But before I start into that, I would just like to talk briefly about Aceli Africa. Who is Aceli Africa? What do we do? So Aceli Africa is market catalyst, building competitive and inclusive agri-SME. We launched in 2020 during COVID. We are in 5 countries, 4 in East Africa and Southern Africa, Zambia. Our goal is to mobilize financing in agri-SMEs and touch 5 million farmers by 2020. Our product offering is in two ways. One is the financial incentives that we provide to the commercial banks and non-banking institutions. One of our products offering is called Portfolio First Loss Cover. Portfolio First Loss Cover is basically, in simple terms, is credit guarantee. And our risk coverage is between 2 to 9%. Loan range is between $10,000 to 1.5. So we know agriculture is risky. We all know that. And we felt like these financial institutions are not actually supporting these SMEs. So how do we now encourage these financial institutions to support these agri-SME that are in rural areas but are not able to access finance? One of the incentives that we provide is called origination incentives. The origination incentives is actually a grant to the financial institutions that we work with. As I said, we work with commercial banks, we work with global impact investors. So we encourage them to compensate and reduce their costs, transaction costs, operating expenses, because during the appraisal process, during the monitoring process, they incur costs. So we give them grants to reduce their costs. We also have an impact bonus that we provide to the commercial banks and non-banking institutions. This impact bonus is because we encourage banks to go to these other businesses that would not have been financed. For example, women-led businesses, youth-led businesses, climate-smart businesses, and food security. Here in Rwanda, you are aware that we have a lot to do in terms of food security and nutrition. So we encourage our partner lenders to go in such businesses. We also support the lenders that we work with, capacity building. Capacity building in terms of lender and technical assistance and the SME that we want to support. One of the incentive that we provide, that is none, is capacity building for our lenders that we work with. Most of these lenders that we work with, they don't have enough skills to understand agriculture financing. So basically, how do we now support these lenders to go for agriculture financing? Also, we enhance skills for the SMEs through our technical assistance, and these ones, it's a combination of the two. One is pre-finance and post-finance. Pre-finance, this is actually making business ready for the finance. And post-finance is when the business is already financed and actually they didn't need that skills. Second, of non-financial institution is policy advocacy. It's very important for us. How do we actually collaborate together with other stakeholders to talk about the policies that affect agriculture financing? I said we started mid of COVID 2020, and we have achieved 94 million commitments, and we have financed 380 million dollars, and out of that, 63% is the first-time borrowers. That is a key to us because when we are giving all these financial incentives, we actually see how many borrowers that are coming actually in the market. We have our donors here. I'm happy to see some of our donors here, and Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mastercard Foundation, and others. We also have partners that we work with. Aceli is impact and data-driven. So definitely we cannot do this work without our partners. These are the statistics for Rwanda. This Rwanda statistics. We have supported 550 loans, and we have mobilized 94 million through our partner financial institutions. Thank you. Thank you. And we have 9 lenders, 5 within the countries, and I'm happy to see some of the members here. And others are global investors that are out of Rwanda, but they finance some of the SMEs here in Rwanda. As I said, we are data-driven, impact-driven, and for us to actually go into finance is that we really need to see the climate and environment. How do we see this climate environment? We verify, we go out there and verify these businesses that are into smart businesses. How do you see food security? Same thing. Women-led businesses, we actually go out there to see whether these businesses are women-led. We have also supported 191 SME through our technical program. As I go into this policy work, is that what we have realized for some time is that we have to study or a case study that we conducted. One is on the central bank policy regulations or that are actually affecting agriculture financing. The second is the role of government in supporting agriculture financing. So what we have seen is that the agriculture financing is scattered across the ministries, across government agencies. So it is in between, it is stuck. I call it actually an orphan, whereby in the Ministry of Agriculture, they take care of production, agriculture production. The Ministry of Finance, they take care of mobilizing funds for agriculture. And the Ministry of Trade, they actually take care of trade and commerce and all that. But no one is there to coordinate agriculture financing, which is really difficult for these SME. So we are working closely with other partners, and this study is across the East Africa, not only in Rwanda, but this is what we have seen in this East Africa. So it's often in a way that they need to have a coordinated unit or agency to support these SME. So we're working closely with AGRA, working closely with the country bankers association within the countries. We are working with here in Rwanda, Access to Finance, to change, to advocate, to review all these policies that are affect agriculture financing. My presentation is going to be simple because the previous speakers were talking about challenges in SME financing. But me specifically, I'll talk about 4 examples that are actually affecting these SMEs. One is the credit guarantees, the treatment of credit guarantees. What do I mean the treatment of credit guarantees? Is that there is no framework for the credit guarantees. We have all the credit guarantees, including Aceli and others, African Guarantee and others, but you find there's no specific guidelines for credit guarantee. So how do we now encourage these lenders actually to use credit guarantees? These credit guarantees are not recognized by the central banks. So they take it as the supplementary insurance instead of de-risking the instrument, which is difficult, and sometimes banks shy away to actually recognize and go for these guarantees. Another example is sector and industrial classification of loans. We know agriculture is risk. I keep on saying agriculture is risk, and we all know that. Again, agriculture, though is risk, but it's the backbone of the economy. So how do we support this backbone of the economy to increase the production, to increase access to finance and others? So what we have realized is that the governments, the private sector, the way they classify, and even central bank, is that any businesses beyond the primary production is not considered as agriculture. So we find out it is overstated. We find out overstated of risk credit, and we also find out it is underreported. And when it comes to do budgeting, in the government, private sector, they don't really budget. The allocation of resources is limited. So how do we now support this going forward? What we have seen is that other, like North America industrial classification, is that they go into details, the value chain. For example, rice or maize, they go into data. The primary production, processing up to the services until to the export. So in Uganda, our country where we operate, they are actually trying to follow suit on this method. Again, it's another one. I mean, the previous speakers touched about the collateral, the requirements. It's really tough for this SME. And how do we consider alternative collateral without considering land, building, and others? I mean, as we mentioned here, I think country director of Mastercard touched on it, is that collateral registration process is something else. But here in Rwanda, it's not like other East Africa. So I'm talking about other East African countries. It's crazy. It's really it takes time. It is costly. It can take 2% of the value of the loan. Again, agriculture is seasonal. It's seasonal. So we need to be fast to support this before the planting season is done. We are considering this for the central bank to consider the biological assets instead of, they can mix, but those with the biological, for example, cow, goats, they can actually register and allow these SMEs to access finance. Again, crop receipts are not really acceptable to some extent. So these are the challenges for this alternative collateral for SME, and I know it is something that we really need to continue talking about. The last is agriculture loan provisioning. Again, agriculture is risky, and agriculture loans are actually considered as the same or are treated as the same as non-agriculture. And we know that it takes time for planting and harvesting. It can take 30 to 90, but it does not mean that they have not paid. So usually some banks, because I guess I want to be quoted here, but because they don't have skills in agriculture financing, they tend to shy away. And they don't want to actually support this agriculture. So we recommend the central bank to review provisioning guidelines, agriculture production, and others to make sure give the grace period for agriculture financing. As I conclude, I want to quote the MD of Equity Bank Rwanda, Huntington, once said that risk in agriculture is real. Sector-specific provisioning requirement would provide a tangible incentives to lend. So this is very true. So we really need the guidance for us to support this agriculture financing. As I conclude my presentation, I would like us to come together, combine our efforts, and support this sector, because we know we eat every day. And we need to really support this agriculture financing and SME. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Janet, for your presentation and even highlighting some of the products that Aceli has on the market. And I also just wanted to remind us of the 3 lenses that Mr. Nwari actually mentioned when we're following and also analyzing the presentations that we are getting, looking at the design fit, looking at does it bridge the gap of trust, looking at its depth as well, like what more could be done, what other innovative tools could we put in place. So even as we continue following the presentation, I just want us to remind us that we'll have time to have open floor engagement. Right after the next presentation, we'll open the floor. And we'd want to hear from you. How do you challenge even the data, the information that you're receiving? Does it fit into your own personal experiences? Does it really apply? And yeah. Even before I introduce the third panel, I just want for us to turn our attention to the screen for the first presentation that was by John on just looking at the comprehensive MSME FinMap report here in Rwanda. You can scan the QR code and you can be able to get and have more time to look through the data and be able to just have an in-depth understanding. So I'll just give you a few seconds for you to scan. Amazing. Now we're going to move into the next presentation that will be on data for growth study led by Entrepreneurial Solutions Partners under the Finance Engage initiative. And this study will highlight the finance needs and opportunities for MSMEs and will also introduce a roadmap that will be calling on stakeholders to take action. To take us through this and give us more details, help me welcome to the stage Mr. Zephanie Nyonguru from ESP Partners Rwanda Limited. He'll be sharing more about this. Let's give a big round of applause to Zephanie. He is the Value Creation and Development Lead.
Thanks, Fiona. Hello. Hello. Okay. We've had fantastic results from the studies that have been done all around MSMEs, all around financing. And of course, what we're trying to do is not, we're not doing studies, surveys. What we are doing is making sure that we call for action. We make sure that we get data. We make sure that we do get insights, which are going to inform all of these elements related to SMEs financing. So what I'm going to take you through, it's mainly a few slides, but they are called Data for Growth. And it's part of the initiative that we do as part of what we call Finance Engage. Finance Engage, it's a French kind of sentence. If you translate in English, you would say finance commits. Or if you had to say it in Kinyarwanda, in our context, it's anything to do with imihigo. So you're like, I'm going to do this. And briefly about who we are ES Partners, and we are with other members of consortium. We're implementing a project called Grow to Scale. by Mastercard Foundation. And other members of this consortium include Access to Finance Rwanda, and these are the consortium lead. And we also have BPN. And one of the things that we do under Grow to Scale, we mainly focus on supporting entrepreneurs who are in agriculture and then tourism and hospitality. We combine finance and advisory. And one of the things that we want to also start, which has worked also in other market, is this finance engage, which I'll be coming back on. And for us to be able to discuss it, we conducted a survey where we spoke to 1,600 entrepreneurs across 10 districts of Rwanda, in all the region and city of Kigali, to just hear what is going on. And we compared what has been happening 7 years ago and what was happening in 2024. So we are literally talking about 2027 until 2024. That's around 7 to 8 years. Feel free to network with the person by your side and let him or her know what you are doing in 2017. Anything to do with SMEs. 5 or 10 seconds, tell your neighbor, what are you doing in 2017 around SMEs? And we'll ask a few people to share the ideas. What were you busy with 2017? 15, and we're gonna pick a few members from some tables to share. Probably your table will be picked. Do you have one mic? 2017. Okay, someone from table 19. Table 19, you let us know. We do 19. We do table 3 and 21.
Ngewe nitwa Tuyishimire Angelique.
Mhm.
Mu wundi mwaka ngewe ntabwo nari nasobanukiwe mu bintu nyine byo gukora, wenda ngo mbe natinyuka ngo nkoreshe nk'ibihumbi birenze senkani.
Mhm.
Ariko mbere nungukaga 1,000.
Mhm.
Nyuma SP ije kuduhugura numva ndatinyutse.
Mhm.
Haza umuntu wo muri Afrifarmers amisoko, ubu ntabwo natinya no gukoresha miliyoni.
Okay. Excellent. Murakoze cyane. I think for those who don't understand English, she was saying that in the past, those who don't understand Kinyarwanda, sorry, she was saying that in the past she couldn't even use or invest 50,000, but now through Grow to Scale, she has been linked with Afri-Farmers who has been buying their products, and now she's ready to invest up to 1 million. Okay, thank you. Murakoze cyane. Table 19, 19. That was 19, 21, Fiona. 21. This side. Yes, 21. 2017 mwari hehe mwakoraga ibiki bijyanye na SMEs, wenda wari rwiyemezamirimo, wenda wari muri banki, cyangwa se wari no ku ishuri. Now, quickly, we do table 3.
Good morning.
Morning.
For me, in 2017, I was still an employee for someone else.
Excellent. What were you doing? What was it about?
I'm an engineer. I was doing grant survey in different companies. I was the grant survey engineer.
Excellent. Okay. Final, table 3. Yes, there's a mic there. Yes, please.
Yeah, so for us, it was quite difficult because we're all bankers and DFIs and so consultants. So in 2017, we had a serious argument and we found out that actually there was nothing we were doing. Yeah, interestingly, because then to us, SMEs was most, why go disturb those guys that let them they fail, they always fail, so why take the risk? So it was quite something different that we've seen. And we just found out that we were more like just focused on people we believe will succeed. So that's just it.
All right, thanks for honesty. I think in a course of 7 to 8 years, so many things can happen. When we did this survey last year, from the banking perspective, we realized that actually the banks, their assets grew by a multiple of 3. So over that particular period that we are talking about. And if you look at the microfinance institutions, their assets grew by 2.4. These are multiples, it's not a percentage. So they grew heavily. That's a positive side of the story. And then if you also look at the private sector credit as a share of GDP, within that particular period, the growth was only of 2%. At that time, in 2017, it was at 21%. 2024, it was at 23%. And then, if you look at the financing needs, we more of asked entrepreneurs, what do you need in financing? And the initial presenters also alluded to some of this data, like what is needed in terms of financing. If you look at what we had in 2017 to what we were able to find out in 2024, the growth was also of a multiple of 2.5. Now, the needs are heavily concentrated on growth capital. But again, if you look at what we're able to find in the 2024, you're like, if you have 10 SMEs or 10 companies in need of financing, only 8 out of 10, have submitted a request to a financial institution. You see what I mean? When you're looking at these metrics, think of who needs financing, and then who needs financing, and then you go to the bank. And then you also have a third layer of those who go to the bank, they get the financing. So you really have all of these assets that have been growing. You have these needs in the financing that has been growing, but you have a very tiny percentage of entrepreneurs going to the bank. And you also have massive needs beyond capital that are yet to be met. So what the Finance Engage or these elements that we're doing does is to bridge that gap. It's creating a forum. It's creating a platform where providers of capital, where companies involved in advising SMEs meet with SMEs, discuss needs, and commit in terms of what they will be injecting into SMEs financing. And if, as I started, I said, think of it as Mihigo. It's not that the money is not there. I think with the previous presenters, we saw what has been mobilized. But if you go out there, I remember recently, under this Grow to Scale program that I was talking about, when we were onboarding some of entrepreneurs, I was speaking to an entrepreneur from Mutsiro, who is like, we started as a cooperative, we established a company, we use our own money, we use money from cooperatives. And then I was like, do you know about Kataza? Kataza is a debt facility which is supported by the Mastercard Foundation, which give companies in agriculture and tourism, loan facilities at 9%. But it's at 17%, but the foundation covers that interest rate differential of 8%. So these entrepreneurs are like, no, we only use money from our members. We fear loan. We don't want our asset to be auctioned. We've been contributing for so many years. We support, whenever we get profits, we give to our members. They pay school fees for their kids. We don't want to go to the bank. That was a side of an entrepreneur in Rutsiro. Then we visited another one in Kamonyi. This guy has been a chef. He's been working for quite some times. And then he started something at his own. He has a venue which hosts, meetings, a room that can host up to 700 people, an Olympic, swimming pool, 12.5 on 25 meters. And then I'm like, but if I look at this space, this is fantastic, so big, you every Sunday you're telling me you have so many people are doing city escape to come here. Why don't you raise money and also, put few rooms there? He's like, I've been working for so many years. I don't want to go in trouble with raising money from banks. So there is that fear. So when you look at this data, in some cases, you're like, what is the rejection rate? You're actually looking at the people who went to the bank to request for the money. you still have a huge percentage of people who don't even go there. Either they fear the banks, they're like, no, we want to be conservative, we don't want issues. Others, they don't even know that these things exist. So when you talk about finance and cash, this is now the platform that you say, how do we make sure that we bridge those gaps? You have financial institutions, you have the companies that are supporting SMEs, you have SMEs themselves, and then you say, this is the envelope that we have, which we are committing to deploy into the financing of SMEs. And these are some of the data definitely in terms of how MFIs have been, financing MSMEs in the economy. It's been growing. And if you look at the private sector credits as a percentage of GDP, we said it's still low. It hasn't, increased heavily. If you look at where it was in 2017, it's even below what we have in sub-Saharan Africa, which is now at 23 for Rwanda, while the average for the rest of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa is above 30%. So we still have, a huge contribution to make. And in fact, what we are saying here, it's you can look at it from two angles. There is massive growth that should come from utilizing what is already there, bridging that gap between demand and supply. And then there's also attraction of the new resources. And if we look also at the needs, I think some of the previous presenters alluded to more of this, what kind of investments or why do entrepreneurs need money? All of the things that you mentioned before, working capital, capital expenditures, ability to do some bridge financing. These are the needs that have been highlighted, and it's not only in Kigali, but it's across the country. But the key question is, given that we're talking about the asset of these banks being at that level, it's really huge. Yeah? And remember, we are talking about these financial institutions which are, formal, which are registered with the central bank. We are not actually talking about private equity funds that are there. We're not talking about venture capitalists. We're not talking about other forms of alternative financing. So if you have a growth of that magnitude, what is missing? Why aren't we seeing, these SMEs or these micro enterprises accessing finance? So when we are preparing for this, and as I go toward the end, you will see, a 2-minute video. We are speaking to banks. We're like, we know you have some products to finance SMEs. We know you have some development partners that you work with. They even give you money. They tell you, lend SMEs, I'm going to guarantee this. The Kataza that we are talking about, in addition to the interest rate differential, which is covered by the foundation also covers the guarantee. They're like, lend money at 90%, I will pay you the 80%, and in the case of any defaults, I will come in and chip in, you see? But of course, I met a colleague from I&M Bank, they've been running this fund. If you ask Christia, like, which companies tapped into the initial part of Kataza? Majority be in the city. Majority definitely be these people in the city. We come here, we know where products are, and it's very easy to access this. But if you go up country, these companies that we are saying, which are really where the risk aversion is still high, in some cases, they don't even know that these products exist. So when we are preparing this, we spoke to several financial institutions, and thanks to those who responded to our survey, including actually some that made some commitments. You see the videos, we have EcoBank, thanks Karin, we have I&M Bank, we have Equity, we have BPR, we have BK, we also have microfinance institutions, and we also have some ecosystem builders, including the central bank, the regulator, we have Rwanda Bankers Association, thanks Tony, the Rwanda Microfinance Institutions Association. So, of course, this is of course the beginning. From the commercial banks, 3 of them were able to disclose the amount. They're like, from our portfolio, this is what we are committing to inject into SMEs financing. So we had 3 of them, which committed 53.3 billion francs. And then microfinance institutions that committed 33.2. And a disclaimer, this is those disclosures that were made. But if you look at their total asset and what they be financing for is going to be above that. But the point we are making is when you look at Finance Engage, and I will give you a case of Cote d'Ivoire. We have been running this for the last 8 years. What it does, it's bringing together all of these players. We mainly do this data for growth where we are like, okay, we go out there. Probably we spoke to 2,000, enterprises, and 8 to 10, we are now approaching banks. When we come back, it's probably 6. But what we do, we also say, these people are committing to deploy capital. We also bring on board other players. You have development, financial institutions. You have some development partners. You have some enterprise support organization. They also say, as you deploy this capital, this is also the role that we're going to play. And what it does, you are really increasing that particular pie. So if you look at these numbers here, we even tried to compare with what we did with the Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal. The first one is, 43% were like, we don't need financing. And then have 48% saying, we need financing, but we have not approached any financial institution, which is the case of Kamonyi that I was saying. I was challenging this founder, like, look at it like, of course, you're like, you're waiting to raise your own 200 million, and then you only request 50 million from the bank, which is actually for the bankers in the room. The other way, you guys have been looking at the debt to equity ratio. We normally say, the debt is going to be 70 or 60, and equity be 30 or 20. But these guys out there, they're looking at it at the other way. Because the risk aversion is very high. They're like, we're going to minimize the debt component so that we don't have any issue. In fact, when I was asking this entrepreneur, do you even have a board? He was like, no, I don't need a board. My bank is a board. The way they visit to follow up on their money, that's more than a board. So that was this guy saying so. So you really have 48% who, they need financing, but they don't approach the banks. And then you also have, out of the total of some who need financing, they approach banks, but, they do not get the financing. That's 1% of the total. And then you have 8. But of course, if you have to look at it, in terms of rejection rates, you take 1 plus 8. So you have 8/9. And then 1/9 and 8/9, so that at least we understand the numbers, not necessarily saying the rejection rate is at 92%. We are only considering the ones that go to the bank. So what we are really saying is it's a combination. One of the products that we have at TSP is called Intelligent Capital, where we are like, you don't need the money only. If money was not an issue, everyone who goes to the bank to get money, they would be rich. But some will get money, and the first thing they do is definitely resolving a family issue that they have, is buying a nice car, is renovating the house. But literally, if you borrowed at 20%, and it's 100 million, you utilize the 40 for something else, it's going to be difficult for the 60 million to generate a return that will, pay back the 100 million. So with the intelligent capital, you say, what else do you need beyond financing? This is what, for example, the survey was showing. When you asked some of these companies, this 1,600, would you like to receive any capacity building, to improve management, or other non-financial issues in your company? 65 were, yes, we need this kind of advisory. And then we're like, okay, do you even know anyone who is involved in this? We're talking about, our friends at BPN in the room. We're talking about TSP. We're talking about, Aceli and others. But look, the companies out there don't know that you exist. Only few, So out of that percentage, the 65%, if you dig deeper, for those who said we need it, 80% were like, we don't know which company to approach to get this kind of support to help us to improve other things which are not related to finance. And these are mainly elements related to leadership, to taxation, to access to market, among other key elements. And of course, even alternative financing, majority of them are still looking at the bank. It's either using their own money, it's using money raised through family and friends, money, and then when they go a step further, they go to the debt components, or if they are working with some either development partners or enterprise support organization, they only come in when it's anything to do with the grants. Okay, it's a grant, it's free money, they come. But if you say, by the way, you've been running this thing and probably someone else, a VC is going to come in, what we'll be doing, they're not going to need their money over the next 5 years. What you only be doing is making sure that you invest in what you've discussed, you report, you have proper structures for the next 5 years, and then you discuss how they will be exiting. Either someone else will buy them out, or you agree on how you'll be paying them. So these are the limited knowledge that are out there in the market when it comes to those alternative sources of financing. The big chunk that you see there is where they're like, no. We don't know about other alternative sources of financing. Here we are looking at elements like, angel investing, private equity, some leasing products. And taking the foundation, we've been working with the foundation across the continent, and one of the big projects that we're working on with them is the Mastercard Africa Growth Fund. This is a fund of fund which has a size of $200 million of the total asset of that fund, and they invest in investment vehicles, and then those investment vehicles invest in portfolio companies. So together with the other partners, we mainly providing some advisory and value creation to these portfolio companies and the investment vehicles, which really help these entrepreneurs to access patient capital and growth capital, of course, which is, of course, another source of supplementing their own money and other alternative sources of financing. And as I conclude, just to give you an idea of finance engagement in Cote d'Ivoire, the first edition was done in 2016. You see the videos, we have several banks that participated, and we have 3 that committed. In Cote d'Ivoire, it was also like that when we started. And in fact, yesterday when I was speaking to my colleague, Teddy from Abidjan, he was reminding me that when they started this, they were actually emulating or learning from Mihigo, which I implemented in public sector here. So they also brought the members, the private sector, they're like, okay, can we also do something which is like Mihigo? You are EcoBank, you are XYZ Bank, you already have this portfolio to lend to SMEs, but you want a commitment. And the next time you'll be coming back here, I'm sure you're not going to be happy if you say, yeah, I had 100 million on my balance sheet dedicated to financing SMEs, but I've only deployed the 10%. So you be keen to say, do I partner with BPN, do I partner with the ESP, do I partner with Aceli? How do I make sure that, I deploy this capital, of course, in a diligent manner? So they learned from Mihigo, they launched it. As we speak now, they've done 8 editions, and the latest that was done this year was concentrated on the green financing. Now they've been doing theme by theme, and the commitments, the latest commitments were of $2.2 billion. For those who know Abidjan, this is the financial city of West Africa. But before, it was the same conversation. SME is like, where do we get money? Yeah, money is there, but we're not getting money. But through this finance engagement, they've been mainly where we dive into data for growth. You say, what entrepreneurs are saying out there? What is the level of confidence, trust between entrepreneurs and banks? And then we see what the data says. And then number 2, we move to the banks and say, what are you committing? And how do you track this to make sure that it happens? And number 3 would say, we'd gather in a forum like this and say, these were the commitments from last year. This has been the realization, and this is what we were committing to do next year. And then you also have development partners, enterprise support organization, and other players coming and say, this is also what we're going to focus on. Either we focus on some products for women, we provide some guarantee, we provide some advisory, but this is what our role will be. And then last but not least, you also have the financing awards, awarding some that have been doing fantastic job. So it's really, it has been a very, very, it's been growing, supporting the SME financing ecosystem. And as we do this one, in addition to thanking those that have participated, we also invite others. We believe that the next day when we're going to be here, we're probably going to have numbers going up. Morning when I was speaking to Tony, we are saying now we're at more than 50 banks in Cote d'Ivoire participating in this forum, coming in saying, this is our commitment, this is our commitment. I remember when we were having the conversation with some of the banks, they're like, oh, by the way, why do I need to put a number here? I'm like, by the way, you're even a public company, you publish this data. we see them. What you're doing is like, now we're creating this platform where you're like, you're going to focus on this advisory or TA. We're going to focus on providing guarantees. We have this shared vision. So that's really what I wanted to end with. And as we go ahead, the pact or the recommendation, it's mainly prioritizing intelligent capital, making sure that we mix the technical assistance, advisory, and then the financing, and then also making sure that you access other alternative sources of financing, that are available. And also we make sure that, we see SMEs as the value creators in the economy. I think initial presenters alluded to this. More than 90% of our companies are SMEs. This is where the growth is going to come from. All of these fantastic targets that we have under the National Strategy for Transformation, they are structured around the SMEs, and we can't achieve anything if these SMEs are not doing well. And then, of course, Transform, which is innovating in existing models of credit, or granting, and dissolving these issues that were being spoken before. Is it how many days do you take to process a credit? If it's checking on your credit score, your CRB, all of these are also other elements that should be part of the priorities. And it's it's not the role of the banks only. It's not the role of the government only. It's not the role of a few members of the economy. It's just all of us. I think there is this African adage, which I will end with, which says, it takes a village to raise a kid, or to raise a child. So it also takes a village to grow an SME. Thank you, and looking forward to further conversation.
So thank you all the presenters for the elaborative presentation. As the Dutch and the Netherlands Embassy, we're proud to be supporting Aceli, and we commend them for the great work that they are doing. I'd like to touch on the issue on guarantees, and just to showcase one example which is working tremendously well, is credit risk sharing. So as the Dutch, we launched the first ever credit risk sharing guarantee in Rwanda, and that has been working very successfully with I&M Bank. And $20 million was given to them, and they've exhausted that 100%. Now, that particular loan portfolio, which takes the form of a loan portfolio guarantee, requires the MSMEs that want to access the funds not to provide any collateral, so zero collateral is provided and covers up to 90 to 95% of what is being taken. Now, due to the success of that, we're very actively considering scaling that to other tier 1 financial institutions. Reason being is also driven by the low non-performing loans that have been registered, and it being sector agnostic. Because across the board, if you're in agriculture, if you're whichever sector that you are in, you can be able to access it. And that speaks to also the potential of the MSMEs sector within Rwanda, and SMEs that have this high appetite towards accessing this type of credit. Secondly, I'd like to speak on the presentation by Access to Finance Rwanda on savings. I share the opinion that the Capital Markets Authority also needs to have some significant input in having different types of tools and instruments in which these savings can be able to work for the entrepreneurs. So instead of just having money as a savings, why don't have a vibrant Capital Markets Authority and really disseminate that information right to people in the rural areas so that they can know what type of ways in which they can be able to invest the savings that they have in the Capital Markets Authority, and need to become more vibrant. And also tying on to that is with the MSMEs, the question should be how can they eventually get listed on the Rwandan Stock Exchange, right? Because there has to be a vision, there has to be a trajectory. You're an MSME, you're an SME. So eventually, can you be able to mobilize funds through the Rwandan Stock Exchange? And what tools are being put for them to be able to grow to that stage? Now, what that does is that it unlocks a lot of potential when you're looking at venture capitalists, when you're looking at different development institutions that can be able now to work with these MSMEs to drive them towards that journey, for them to eventually get listed. And that now leads to the growth of the MSMEs and them significantly contributing towards the overall growth of the Rwandan economy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that contribution. We're going to take maybe 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, my name is Peter Rutayomba. I'm from Future Dynamics Innovation. I have two facets on this discussion. First of all, I would like to thank you for the presenters and the partners for bringing this up. Now, one of the challenges in this room, the micro SMEs are very few here. So this kind of information is not available there. So people don't understand, don't know what is available. So that is the first challenge. Now, somebody asked where were we somewhere in 2017. So I want to bring you the background of what we do before going into the money sector. So our business is aggregation. Previously, our money business is aggregation. So we get service providers on this side, and then we have agents in the middle and the consumers at the end. So I wanted to ask, this discussion that we have had, how can the financial institution and the partners create this model called aggregators? You know, we have, I think, 21 banks, probably maybe 20 microfinances, and the population is around 14 million. So how do we reach on each urban, rural setting to actually give this information and provide those services? So this is a challenge that is for all of us, both private sector, the government, and the partners, to create the aggregation model, because we cannot reach. For example, we started with around 10 agents. Somewhere in 2019, before the COVID hit, we had around 3,000. These 3,000 were actually micro SMEs who ate their capitals during the COVID and disappeared. They went back to around 1,000, 1,200. So if we are to distribute this information to the last agent on the ground, we need to expand. So 19 banks will not reach to that end. So we need to think about how do we aggregate where we have financial institutions as service providers, and then the guys who can do the distribution. You understand the model of MTN, Airtel, where they distribute the airtime. We need to think about it in such a way that we distribute financial services to the last consumers. That's what I wanted to bring.
Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Gatera from One Cup Coffee Roasters. I'm very happy to unofficially represent the MSMEs. Yeah, so because I heard from the service providers on their side. And I just want to mention that the time I came to the room, I was fully on the side of the complainants, or the employers or the borrowers anyway, because the borrowers are always complaining. And but after going through the presentations, I think, and also the video that you played from the banks, the commitment, I think there is a future, and this really seems that it's going to work. And we are just waiting to see that what will happen. And thank you to Zephanie and I think John's presentation. And but I just want to give also my feedback on how the borrowers or the MSMEs feel when it comes to borrowing money, because there has been this kind of trauma about banks, and I just compare it to probably what happened in our history. People still have, some people have not healed fully. And I'm telling you that we, the borrowers, we get stories from probably the previous borrowers that things didn't go well. And there is that trauma. So, and I think it's also the task from the banks to do something about healing and being, there has been presentations that banks have to be a bit flexible and understand, and also lend the money according to the need of the businesses. So I just want quickly to give also an example of some institutions that we have in the government. You look at the Rwanda National Police. Police, naturally, people in the public view police as the enemy because it's always hunting the enemy. So, but the Rwanda National Police, tried to be a friend to the public, and you have seen that. And even when you go to give a case, sometimes they even help you to write your case, even if you don't understand. They read it through for you, and they make sure that you understand, and you just sign, and then you go. But for the banks, sometimes they tell you the money is there, but the language that it's written in the documents and things to put up. I'm very lucky that I went to school. I graduated. I have a master's. But I can imagine what people didn't even finish secondary, what they go through when the application forms are written in a language that is very technical, it's not very clear, and you don't also have that supportive consultancy from the bank. And so that, when you're in business, you are hunting, you're very busy, you don't have that time a whole week to review the paperwork and the requirements and put together the whole dossier. Now, imagine what you have to go through, and if the language is also not very easy for you to understand. So I think in the banks, they mentioned the research, they mentioned that the procedure of accessing the money, it's a big percentage from the complainants that I'm unofficially representing now. I think we need to look into that for us to utilize the finance engage, that we need to look at those small things that can create a big impact for the borrowers or the small companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you for unofficially speaking on behalf of MSME. Sometimes healing can come in therapy form, but it can also come with financial institutions also simplifying the language for everyone to understand. Could we also maybe hear from the ladies? Yes, please.
Murakoze, nitwa Bagiraneza Josephine, nuruka mu Burasirazuba, mpagarariye abavumvu bo mu Burasirazuba. Dukorera muri koperative yitwa Akagera Beekeepers Union, ni ihuriro ry'amakoperative 6. Ibibazo ndahera ku makoperative yo hasi, ari nayo yatumye nyine ihuriro ribaho. Ibibazo bahura nabyo cyane cyane mu bigo by'imari. Ntago hateganyijwe uburyo abavumvu babona inguzanyo, kuko abavumvu na n'izi saha baracyakoresha uburyo bwa Kinyarwanda, kandi bifuza kuba bakoresha uburyo bwa kijyambere kugira ngo ubuvumvu nyine butere imbere ndetse n'ubuki buboneka ari bwiza. Rero bafite imbogamizi zo kuba basabwa ingwate iremereye, kandi wenda bo ntayo bafite. Rero twifuzaga ko wenda ababishinzwe mwadufasha mu buryo abavumvu bo hasi bafashwa mu bigo by'imari kugira ngo bagereho nabo babashe kuzamuka, bityo tubashe kubona ubuki bufite ubuziranenge. Ikindi, hari imbogamizi nk'ihuriro naryo duhura nazo. Dukorera mu nzu twahawe nyine twatijwe na parike y'Akagera, ariko kugira ngo dukusanye umusaruro w'abavumvu w'amakoperative 6 nabyo biragoranye bitewe n'uko nta ngwate dufite. Ariko twifuzaga ko byibura bikunze ibigo by'imari bikaba hari icyo byadufasha bikatworohereza tukabasha kubona inguzanyo, tukaba twabasha gukusanya uwo musaruro byadufasha. Murakoze.
Murakoze. I think CEO Access to Finance Rwanda yasubiza kuri ibyo bibazo mwari mubajije.
Murakoze cyane ku bibazo byiza cyane mubajije. Ndizera ko hari abafatanyabikorwa bamwe mukorana ubu ngubu, niyo badahari kandi uyu munsi we kuva hano utababonye, kuko barahari. Icyo navuga ni uko bagiye babivuga benshi batubanjirije, ikintu kijyanye n'ingwate rwose mu Rwanda dufite ingwate nyinshi. Dufite abantu bafasha kubona ingwate, ariko ikibazo amakuru ntabwo agera hose. Ndakeka hari ubivuze mu kanya, ntabwo amakuru agera aho hirya kure, ahera i Kigali, sinzi impamvu rwose. Ariko nabyo bijyanye na is it moral hazard. Hari ukuntu abatanga garanti batekereje ko nuvuga ko ufite garanti haraza abantu bashaka kwambura banki gusa, cyangwa bashaka kuza atari badafite intego nziza kandi sibyo urumva kugira ngo ufate icyo gitekerezo uvuge ati nimbivuga ba bandi badashobotse nibo baza gusa ubwo ni ukuvuga ngo uri gufokasinga ku bantu nka 5%, 95% bafite umutima mwiza wo gufata kredi ariko ntibafite ingwate ubwo urabarangije ntibazabona amakuru. Ibyo bintu mu by'ukuri ngewe from a theoretical perspective ntago mbyemeranye nabyo kuko twagombye no kwigisha abantu ko niyo wafata inguzanyo hari umuntu ni nko kugutiza ingwate. Mu muco nyarwanda hari abantu batizaga ingwate ndabizi nkiri gukora muri banki akayigutiza pe akaguha inzu ye kandi ukishyura ukayimusubiza. Byabayeho biracyabaho no mu muco nyarwanda turabizi. Ariko rero mu gihe umufatanyabikorwa azanye inkunga kugira ngo igufashe nka Mastercard Foundation n'abandi bose bavuze ni ngombwa yuko tuyikoresha. Rero ayo makuru ku kibazo cy'ingwate niba mukora neza niba mufite business ifatika muri ayo makoperative uko ari 6 ndumva nta mpamvu tutabafasha. Icya mbere tuzabaha ubumenyi bwiza bwo kugira ngo mukore business neza n'ubushobozi ariko niyo nguzanyo nimuyikenera mwayibona rwose n'ingwate mwayibona. So uze kutureba muri Access to Finance Rwanda ndizera Martin arahari cyangwa se Jean d'Amour ari hariya nahaguruke umubone uze kumuganiriza aragufasha rwose. Turakorana murakoze cyane abo ngabo bagufasha.
Thank you. We're going to get one more lady and then we'll transition to the panel discussion.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dorcas, and I joined late. I literally just saw this on LinkedIn and decided to come and show up, and it's been an interesting conversation so far. I have a question on the cost of financing. I don't know what other speakers said, but I did hear from ESP, and I think there's been some conversations around guarantees. My question is, over West Africa, East Africa, Southern, every time the cost of financing is a key issue. But then we find that guarantees are very volatile. 5 years, there's a development program happening, it goes down, something else comes up. I wonder if there's a model in place to look at the sustainability of guarantees. How do we keep these running for 10 years, 20 years to come, 15 years to come? And if there's anything that has worked in other jurisdictions that we can look at for the different markets, it would be great to hear some suggestions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that question. And it's a very pertinent question. Now, how the guarantees work, and specifically within the context of credit risk sharing and what has worked tremendously well with I&M Bank, is that for a lot of these MSMEs, they don't have a credit portfolio. They don't have a track record. So when a bank looks at them or any lending institution, it's high risk. So the advantage that the loan portfolio guarantee plays is that 1, zero collateral is asked by the tier 1 bank. 2, covers up to 95% of the amount that you're going to take. So in case you default, that guarantee acts as an insurance. So it's able to cover that risk. And then what leads to the sustainability of it is that once you build that credit portfolio, you build a track record. So thereafter, the MSME gets the money, they're able to pay it back satisfactorily, and they build a portfolio with the financial institution and within the financial ecosystem. So now they are able 10, 15, 20 years down the line to have a solid track record. So the main bottleneck that a lot of the MSMEs face now is that they cannot be able to establish a track record because they don't have the collateral, they don't have the cash flow, but they have fantastic ideas, they have business models that are there. So that is the beauty of these loan portfolio guarantees. And I'm excited to say that with the success that we've had with I&M Bank, and this loan portfolio guarantee is issued by the Dutch Entrepreneurial Bank, or abbreviated as FMO. We're also looking at scaling it to other tier 1 institutions because the tier 1 banks within Rwanda have seen the remarkable transformation that it has had with them lending to these MSMEs, which they wouldn't because it would eat into their core capital, which sits with the regulator. So it leads to the sustainability of it through that. And then also because of the success that it has had, these credit risk sharing will still be there. One, also driven by the low non-performing loans. Because as we speak now, the NPLs for I&M banks, specifically this, are at average 1.8%, which is very, very low. So even the guarantee that they've been given, they have not unlocked a single amount of it, which is $20 million. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Fiona. First of all, sorry for my bad voice. I have a strong cold. I'm Alice Ngurichinga. I'm the country director of BPN Rwanda. For the past 15 years, we have been working with SMEs and seeing really SMEs growing from almost nowhere to becoming global leaders here in Rwanda. And first, I would like to appreciate this morning and all the effort of all partners coming together to make a change. And my contribution is a change that I believe that will be needed for us to achieve what we are talking about. We saw all our CEOs in Rwanda saying, finance, je m'engage, and they really mean it. And we have seen it over the past years that really the financial institutions have stood up and they have unboxed on the SME financing and the SME portfolio much, much more than we used to have in the past. But still the numbers are showing us we are not there where we wanted to be. And I believe what could make a real difference is for financial institutions to become more entrepreneurial, to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, to step into the shoes of the people we are trying to serve, to make sure that these entrepreneurs, we heard it from some of them, that they feel seen, that they feel heard. We tend to talk about all these things very technically, very academically, great presentations, great market, great global aspects and comparisons that do not speak to the people we are trying to serve at all. So we need to take much more of a bottom-up approach. And the banks have the capacity to do that. And if we manage to do that, that you understood, that your sector is understood. I see people from the creative industry. We tend to treat all entrepreneurs SMEs, but there are so many facets to SMEs. And if we don't differentiate, we will be here in 5 years' time and we will be looking at the same slides. So that's what I wanted to challenge us, to be really more specific, more bottom-up, more differentiating, more understanding the clients and the SMEs that we are trying to work with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alice. I think that perfectly just even transitions us to the panel discussion of there's so much to dissect, looking at all the facets. And one by one, I'll be inviting our panelists to the stage. And with so much enthusiasm, we're going to escort them up until they come, take their seats, and they settle into the conversation. Our first panelist, you're going to be on the hotspot. So we have Karine Umutoni, the Managing Director of EcoBank Rwanda. Very excited to have you. We have Maryse Mboyumutwa, founder and CEO of Pink Mango. We have Bonnet Ishimwe, founder, Fast Fruits. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. You can sit right next to Maryse. And our final panelists, we have Mr. Steven Ruzibiza, the CEO of the Private Sector Federation, Rwanda. To moderate this session with thunderous round of applause, because it's going to be a tough conversation to navigate, Mr. Livingstone Nkusi, Program Lead, MSME Finance, Mastercard Foundation. And as he comes, I just want to remind us that the conversation here will be in both English and Kinyarwanda. Livingstone, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much Director of Ceremonies. Maybe to start off, I want to apologize to my panelists because they are all CEOs, and I happen not to be one. Not even at home. My wife is a CEO, and my 6-year-old daughter is the CFO. So I don't know where I fall on this panel, but we're excited to hear from you and have this conversation together in shaping the Rwanda MSME financing ecosystem. This is a balanced room, and I'm happy that we have a very good representative of MSME, of course, CEOs of businesses, the ecosystem players, enablers, regulators, government who are policymakers, but also, best of all, we have the money holders. So, Karine, you'll be right on spot, but because everyone is looking at you to tap into the resources at your disposal, but also to make your business very good. So I'll start with a little context, of course, reflecting on the studies, both the MSME FinMap, Data for Growth, and also the presentation from Aceli, which actually are almost saying the same. There is need from both the supply and also from the demand side. But what is also interesting is that, which we should be concerned about, is that if we have majority of businesses being MSMEs, and then 60% of those did not borrow in the past 1 year, it's a concern. So this panel is here to listen more and also to see what can we make meaning of that fear, of the evidence presented, but also come out of here with some level of commitments and also see how best we can address the gap. So I will start, of course, with the youngest on the panel. Bone, orambabarira ntangire na wowe. Cyambere, your company is called Fast Fruit Company. Niwe wa mbere se gutunganya imbuto mu gihugu. Reka tubanze tutangirira aho ngaho. Kuki wahisemo iri zina?
Okay, murakoze. Ntago ari twe ba mbere gutunganya imbuto, ariko mu muco nyarwanda iyo ugiye guhinga wibanda ku rubuto kuruta umusaruro. So twayise First Fruits just to kumvikanisha yuko ibyo dukora byose urubuto ni urwa mbere.
Wow. That's a good one. And reka dusubire inyuma gato ku rugendo rwawe. Utubwire experience yawe no gukorana na bank, ariko utubwire n'ahantu ugeze, niba ari cyo ugezeho kugira ngo business yawe growing binyuze mu buryo bwose, maybe amahugurwa. Tumvise ko uri muri gahunda ya grow to scale, ubu ngubu waba ufashwa n'iyo program, ariko cyane cyane wibande ku rugendo rwawe n'ahantu ugeze nonaha.
Murakoze. Ubusanzwe nize accounting na procurement muri kaminuza, zari degree ebyiri zitandukanye. So I thought I was making more chance just nendi guclear inzira nyinshi nazobonamo akazi. But when COVID-19 came out, nibwo nabonye yuko ibyo dutekereza by'amabiro bigira aho bigarukira. So mbona ubuhinzi nta muntu bigeze bahagarika agiye guhaha cyangwa agiye ibintu byabijyanye n'ibiryo twarakoraga. So ndi mu rugo, ubundi twe tugira ibiti bitatu mu rugo bya avoka. Nkajya nzibona ari nyinshi, ariko nkibaza se ziriya avoka ubundi zimara iki? So nibwo natekereje ndavuga rero nshobora guhindura ubwenge bwanjye nkabuvana muri office, nkatekereza yuko hari ikindi kintu kitajya gipfa guhagarara kandi kigira inyungu. Ntekereza kuri za avoka nabonaga mu rugo, ndavuga ko se ubwo ninjya guhinga avoka zikerera rimwe nk'uko mbibona mu rugo bizagenda bite. Then bituma nkora research ndende, mbona ko zivamo amavuta, zivamo amasabune, ziraribwa, ziri exported. Then ndavuga mu bintu byose nakora iyi niyo crop ushobora kuba najyamo. And by that time nigaga university, so nari mfite kwita ku masomo kandi nkita no ku kazi kugira ngo mbone n'amafaranga somehow. Ndavuga igiti nzagenda nkitere ngaruke njye ku ishuri, ariko mu by'ukuri nari ndi kwibeshya, ntabwo ariko byagenze koze narabiteye after 2 months barampamagara ngo byarumye. So ntabwo byari byiza cyane ariko byarabaye. It was a part of experience byatumye mva mu rugo muri comfort zone, mvuga wenda nshobora gukora 100,000 mu rugo bakangaburira nkanaba mu rugo. And then I decided kujya ku farm because farm iba mu karere ka Kirehe. Ndavuga kugira ngo ibintu bikunde nuko nzaba mpari. So to cut it short, naje kwa mahirwe ugenda ubona kwa research kugira ngo ubone n'ibyo abandi bakora naho ubona ubushobozi, kubera ko amafaranga nakoreshaga igishoro nina gihawe n'ababyeyi, ariko then nari nkeneye working capital bigatuma mpinga seasonal crops kugira ngo mbashe kubona amafaranga, ariko si byabaga bihagije. Nibwo naje ku meeting ya growth scale, then mbona trainings banyereka ko ibyo nkora I have to nkakora bookkeeping, nkabasha ku marketinga kugira ngo mbashe no kugera ahandi kure. Ibyo nabyo bimeje gufata business bigeza ku rundi rwego. So far dufite hectare 262, of which 15 are owned 100% by the company, and the 247 are owned by outgrowers bari hariya, because twe nk'urubyiruko nta butaka tugira. Since tutagira ubutaka tugomba gukorana n'abafite ubutaka, ufite igitekerezo hari ufite ubutaka. So niyo approach nahise ngenderamo, aba ariyo nkoresha kugira ngo tugere kuri ubwo butaka. Dukorana n'abagore 400, abagabo 120, because bose hamwe ni 420. So byaba byinshi, I think tonight.
Tutarakuvaho kuko your growth journey is very interesting. 15 hectares company irazifite n'izindi 240 from outgrowers. Very interesting from such a young entrepreneur. So ariko aho ngaho nka rwiyemezamirimo w'umucyaro, she's from Kirehe by the way, so avuga nk'umunyamujyi ariko avuye Kirehe, so that means you can leave town and you go in the village to practice agriculture. So niziye mbogamizi muhura nazo mushakisha imari ku level yanyu y'umucyaro, watusangisha?
Okay, twe nk'abanyacyaro financial institutions ntazihaba. Ushobora no gusanga iri kure, tuvuge ndi butege moto ya 3 kujyayo cyangwa 2, noneho ubwo ni 4 ugiye gukora transaction nayo yoroheje, bikakurimita kujya gushaka iyo service runaka. So icyo ni uko ari nye, ariko ikindi twe nk'urubyiruko nari mbivuzeho ntitugira collateral security. So once ugerageje ku approaching the company, the banks bakubwira zana collateral security. So nimba ndi umwana w'umukobwa, ndi urubyiruko, ndi umunyacyaro, nahereye mu rugo, wenda bampa igishoro, ndi gukora ibindi kugira ngo mbonayo nshoramo, ubutaka cyangwa inzu nsaba ntayo nabona, ariko mfite ibikorwa. Tuvuge avoka imara imyaka 3 kugira ngo itangire kwera, hari investment bigaragara mu by'ukuri nakoze. So sometimes twe tuvuga ese iyo investment nta gaciro yagenerwa, then barwiyemezamirimo tukajya tubona amafaranga yo kuguma gukoresha, ariko tutavuze ko zininanirwa zahagarika byose. Ariko hari izi supports zose tumva nyine zakabikuba ziturebaho. So an example gato, nigeze ku approaching a bank and then barambwira ngo bansaba collateral security, and then even the grace period nayo ntago yari ihagije. rimwe na rimwe ntabwo ushobora kuvuga se aba bantu baba bumva ubuhinzi ese kangereranya nk'umuntu wagiye kurangura ari buze agahita acuruza mu cyumweru njye nkaba ndi guhinga ikintu cy'imyaka 3 cyangwa ukwezi really aba bantu barabyumva cyangwa baduha agaciro no kubura urubyiruko ntago mutwizera ibyo nta kibazo.
Thank you so much, Bonnet. Collateral issues, product not for fit. I mean, there are many things that you're sharing with us, from rigid to inflexible products and not understanding agricultural season lending is still a challenge. Maybe from your side, and let me transition to Maryse, because now she's an entrepreneur at an advanced level. Tuvuye mu mishinga mito tugiye mu iciriritse. So at least at a medium level, you can share different experience or the same experience. From what we are seeing, Maryse, and you're talking, of course, on your behalf, but also on behalf of the ecosystem, the fellow entrepreneurs whom you share the same pain point or success stories. Of course, we have seen you from startup to scale, and we want to hear from first point, what are those hurdles you have gone through as an entrepreneur, the challenges, and of course, securing financing for your business. Maybe if you can share a little bit of that, it would be very helpful.
Thank you very much, Livingstone. So my story actually, as usual, is very unconventional, even in entrepreneurship, because we started actually seven years ago now in Rwanda, in partnership with another company, CND, and we now as Pink Mango, we parted ways in 2 years ago, and we had to restart again. So we had grown to quite a large scale, and 2 years ago had to go back into the startup stage and the proper greening entrepreneurial fight. So as you said, the big challenge, I think Alice really summed it very, very well. It's about access to finance and the entrepreneurs. There is a communication gap. And I was telling Tony when I was sitting there, when I walked in, the first thing that really struck me is even the title, MSC Growth Symposium. And I'm going to challenge a little bit. It's, again, MSME and Symposium are 2 different words. There is no small and micro entrepreneur here who will use the word symposium, who will organize a symposium, and I even dare you to translate it in Kinyarwanda.
Urifashiriza Mr. Yachu.
Urifashiriza. So I think this is where it starts. So and as Bonnet said, and we share the same thing as we come as entrepreneur, and here I would like also maybe to bring a little bit of a difference, because there's a big collusion between entrepreneurs and businessmen, and I think it's there is a difference which I have found here probably in Rwanda and Africa in general, not clarified like it is probably in the north. Entrepreneurs, the way I've always known them, seems to be people who are committed to finding a solution for a problem, and most of them happen to choose business as a way of solving a problem, while business men only, and it was shown in the statistics that what is the reason to start a business, if you're just looking for money, it's a completely different mindset. So that's a clarification I wanted to make. So, but anyway, to try maybe and address that gap of understanding, because the holders of capital, which are the banks, which are venture capitalists, which are the development partners, are on the symposium level, maybe to try and bridge that gap is to go through the Ministry of Trade, the policy maker, and they can play a really pivotal role in closing that gap. So if it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to get the banks and the holders of the capital to understand our businesses, we may need to go back and get the support of the policymaker, because the vision is understood by the bank and the policy holders. So very quickly, if I take like my sector, and I do advocate for our sector, especially the export garment manufacturing, because it is actually one of the sector that can create very rapidly a lot of SMEs and MSCs, because a big company, locomotive, once we have 2 or 3 driving the sector, they will need a lot of subcontractors who can start with 40, 50 machine and plug in the same ecosystem. So what to end, I would say, if we go back and once they understood the national vision 2050, from there we understand the current NST2. From the current NST2, we go into the private sector. We choose in the priority sector, we choose one sector like the export-led one. If we could create a task group, one of these one-stop task group that will have a policymaker, that will have a finance institution, that will have a logistics one, so that even the finance institution that has been chosen within that group specializes now in a sector. It could be in agriculture specifically for avocado, it could be for garment manufacturing. I think this could have, but all comes down again, how can we bridge the gap of understanding, and the communication comes both ways. We need to express better what we need, and the banking institution, the financial institutions need to also make the effort of understanding better what we need.
Thank you so much. You have landed it well. You need to express better what you need as a business before even you go to the bank. And this takes me to another question before I go to Karine. From your perspective, because you've been into this for quite some time, but also, and you're free to talk about even the impact you're creating. Sometimes we forget about what the impact SMEs are creating in our economy. So free to brag about the impact before you even respond to this question. So what steps do you think entrepreneurs can take to improve their access to finance? Just 3 of them from your perspective, because I think you have gone through this journey. From your entrepreneur's perspective, if an SME is supposed to approach EcoBank, what do you think they should do, prepare themselves for about?
I think the most effective step is actually to approach companies supporting entrepreneurs, because I would say that the goal with the sectors, if I come back to what we say, we choose one sector, the goal will be to create national champions. You know, we talk a lot about national champions, but we don't really have specific programs today to create the national champions. And if you think what is a champion, I think the best example of champions go in the sports world.
Yeah.
And when you have a young boy who's been scouted as a potential future Messi or Ronaldo, and they are scouted by an international team, they have that potential. Very quickly, he has a team, he will have a doctor, he will have a physio, he will have a contract, a manager, he will have a whole ecosystem around him to support him become a champion. Only entrepreneurs are the young entrepreneurs as the only potential champions with actually an amazing potential big impact on the in society, that are requested to be everything. They are asked to be capital market experts. They are asked to be marketing experts. They are asked to be everything. So I think what they can do to access finance is to seek that ecosystem, that those companies in the ecosystem that can help them, because I don't think it's a young even us being investors ready, depending at what type of financial institution you are approaching. Even we were ready, even us were not ready. We had to seek specific help. If you approach an institutional, if you approach a local bank, if you approach a donor, that there is a lot of preparation that it is not core of a part job, and usually you don't even have the time. So that's probably the first step to do. And from the companies supporting entrepreneurs, to probably advertise more if it is possible, so that those young entrepreneurs know that there is support for them.
Thank you so much. And please also talk about what you're doing, just in 1 minute.
Just what we're doing.
The number of young women you employ.
Yeah, young women. So actually, Ping Mango, it's a garment manufacturing, especially exporting. So we are employing 1,150 young people today. 80% are women. And before that, actually, I co-founded CND, which today is employing 6,000. So the whole sector, if you look at the industry, the garment export industry, we've created over 7,000 jobs in less than 6 years.
Wow. Exactly, that's what I'm talking about when we say let's pay more attention to MSMEs, because that's the impact we're talking about. And Bonnie didn't tell you how many people she's employing. And I'll come back to you just in 1 second. How many people are you employing?
Okay. We are employing 15 permanent workers, and we have around 80 temporary, monthly, depending on the work we have.
Evidence. And where you're seated, you need to ask yourself, how many people are you employing? And then if you are seated on money that is supposed to enable these young people to employ more young people, then you need to act first. So if you're not employing, at least you're somewhere, you're a policymaker, you're into the banking sector processing their loans and delaying them, yet you're not employing anyone. So, so you need to challenge yourself and then see what can we do collectively as an ecosystem. And I'll come back to you. Let me go to Karine. Stephen, I'll come back to you. And I know you carry a burden because all these are your members. So I don't know how you're going to balance this. Others need to be advocated for against another member, and also and you balance the aim of being an umbrella organization. But Karine, and I think here on this panel, you are not only the MD of EcoBank, one of the leading banks, but also you are the deputy chairperson of the Rwanda Bankers Association. So you represent the big majority of the capital order. And people have been, through the reports, they have been showing data of the financing gap for MSME. And I'm sure you have a lot of reflection on those numbers. But coming back to this, what are SMEs not doing right to meet your financing needs in terms of what they need, or what is happening within the banking industry to see that they address the challenges, the financing gap of MSME in general? Over to you.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I think I'm here to be grilled. But no, I want to thank the organizers. Really, that's a great forum for us to be part of, because most of the time it looks like there is one party and then there's the rest. So we're glad that you're part of the conversation. And we're also glad that Today, when you look at the reports and you really dissect it, we used to talk a few decades ago about access. We no longer talk about access. I think Iatu is here and can really confirm that. We used to talk about access to financial services as a major constraint. Today, when you talk about having 96% of adult population that have access to some sort of financing mechanism, payment, even a grandmother in the village calls you to say, "Nyoreza momo." Nyoreza, I think it's very important to acknowledge where we're coming from. But however, we still have gaps. And when you talk about gaps, it's financing. Now we're talking about financing. So it's very good to hear that we've leveled up. Yeah. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is being a banker for the last 2 decades in this market. I appreciate the fact that when you're discussing in the room, nobody's accusing one another. It is really how do we make sure that we resolve the financing gaps that we see. And I want to appreciate some of the comments and also just respond also to some of the question that was raised because it's part of the responses. We have someone who mentioned the fact that what is the role of the capital market here? So I think we need to also align and understand that we have an ecosystem. It's not only banks. Yeah, it's true. That's the only bank that we only invited a bank here, but we cannot, and as Peter rightly said, 20 financial banks and microfinance cannot resolve an issue of a 14 million population. So there has to be partnerships. There has to be, we banks have to work with partners to reach out, because Bonnet is talking about almost 100 staff, permanent and non-permanent. At EcoBank, for example, we are 190 staff. So we're actually equally, more or less. So how will we manage to really reach the far end? And it is really through partnership, through aggregators, so I want us, as I speak, to remember that we work with partners to ensure that we reach the far end. We can finance an aggregator like Peter's company because they have the financial technology to reach out to thousands of farmers quickly, because one of the challenges that we also have is the cost of financing we talked about, and the cost of financing is a combination of so many things. It is the savings that are available on the long term for us to actually lend, which is also limited. There's a report that shows that people use banking services or financial services, but it is they deposit and they withdraw. So if the money does not stay long in the system, it's also very difficult to give long-term financing. So cost of financing is a combination of even the cost of providing the service, because if you want to, if Bonnet mentioned that she has to take a 3,000 moto to go to the bank, the same happens. For the bank to invest, they also have to invest. So the banks cannot work without partners. And for me, I think that is one thing I'm really appreciative of having Mastercard Foundation, AFR, BPN, and ESP to come up with data, because something else that we normally also lack for us is we need to acknowledge what are the issues. And these reports help us to understand where are the gaps. Our business is get deposit and lend. We wouldn't want to leave out 90% of the businesses. It's actually hurt us, right? So we just want to acknowledge that we are working together to reach as many businesses as possible directly and through partnerships as well. So when you talk about what businesses, MSMEs need to do, I think the report spoke about most of it, where you have to have bookkeeping. For us to be able to, even today we're able to give digital loans without having to contact you or for you to fill a form, because we look at the technology has enabled us to assess your cash flow and to say, okay, based on how much this account has collected, they can be given such amount of money, which is great. So it is important for MSMEs to use the channels of payments to allow us to use the data to come up with a very quick way of having you eligible for financing. So I think this is one thing where we've moved from keeping monies in the pillows. Today we have money in the ecosystems, but it's how do we integrate all the ecosystems from banks to telco to MNOs and to everything so that we use technologies and fintechs that have all these very sophisticated tools to enable us to give you access to finance. So I think channeling your cash flow to the bank. Something else is, we talked about bookkeeping, and bookkeeping does not require you a very sophisticated way of doing it. One of the challenges is with MSMEs, the fact that personal finances and business finances are all bundled. So it's very difficult to have clarity on what is the business making, so for you to really assess how much the business require. I think formalizing for us in Rwanda, we don't have it as an issue. The data showed that majority, even micro, are somehow registered. They have a TIN, which is great because this is the tool that we use to actually verify that a business is eligible, and that's yeah. And the last thing that is the most important thing is, yes, we talked about these facilities that are existent, but businesses don't know in the rural areas. So it is not for the MSMEs to do, it is probably for all of us, the partners, the banks, to find a way to scale to the rural area and communicate and talk, as Ali said, speak the language that is used on the ground. And again, you cannot do it if you're not part of the community. So I think one thing that we have that is working well today is agents banking for payment. So how do we use the agent to actually be our representative in the community, give them tools to allow them to access the MSMEs down there in a language that they understand, because they even trust them better. I know MSMEs that do not want to enter the bank because of the perceived, it's a nabakiri, So we need to also make sure that we work with a platform that represents the community so that there's trust between the service provider and the client. So in so many words, I think for me, my key takeaways is how do we make sure that the entire ecosystem work together? There's so many initiatives happening, but we need to put them in one pot so that it's clear who does what, when, to complement and reach for us to reach the ultimate goal of having 250,000 employed every year as an ST2 target. Thank you.
Thank you, Karine. And you emphasize partnerships. And that's the way to go. And that's why we're having this kind of symposium, because it brings together the ecosystem. But we have not seen it happening when it comes to, especially financial institutions, trusting BDS service providers to actually generate a good pipeline for them and then use that trust to finance. And just in 1 minute, if you can emphasize more on that commitment, how can we improve that? BDS service provider, building capacities of MSMEs, driving a pipeline to the banks, and then it is seen and there's trust, and then they get financed. Because I think that's where most of our young entrepreneurs are facing it hard. They have been given too much capacity, training, but when it comes to that is not adding up to them when it comes to accessing resources in terms of finance. Can you highlight the pain point, or what can they improve to seal that kind of relationship?
So I think we totally trust MSMEs that come out of the BDS, really, because you see an improvement in how they present, they have information available, yeah? But again, it comes back to how do you, there are different levels of SMEs you've seen. You have the micro, you have the medium, you have the, and all of them require different type of financing. Those that are at a very, very early stage would probably come to the banks with all the support they've got to get a short-term loan to invest into a long-term needs. So again, it comes back to, are we matching the need and the type of financing? So each level of SMEs require different support. So there are those that will need equity. So the right place is definitely not the bank, because, and that is the role that the BDS is trying to address, because they pair them sometimes with equity investors. But I think BDS are really a great value. Nobody will argue that for banks and risk sharing facilities that we get. I think it's really more about how do we match the needs to the available financing that we have. And they are so, I'm sure even BDS find they're restricted by resources. You know, there's so many companies that you can support within a year. So I think what we require is more of them, so that we actually feel the impact and can actually scale even to the rural areas. Because again, the challenge is most are concentrated in the cities. So how do we now reach the rural areas, and what type of program comes in? So there has to be also the government role and in supporting the BDS to reach out.
Thank you so much. At least we got that understanding that there is trust from the bank to trust BDS service providers to offer the services that are needed. And now, Stephen, allow me to transition to you, and you have to be a mediator in between here. From where you sit, you have an helicopter view of the ecosystem from both your membership as businesses and associations and banks. What are some of the mechanisms that you have seen working within the financial sector that are enabling access to finance for the MSMEs? If you can share from that view where you sit as the CEO of the private sector, which does not discriminate whether it's bank or SMEs. So I'm sure you have visibility on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Livingstone. Livingstone rero ibintu ntabwo ari wane siko mubivuga. If I was allowed to use some of the interventions from members in the audience, I would pick Alice's comment, the lady next to me, and they just say copy and paste.
Yes.
That is on the other section. But if from my position or from where I sit, what is it that I am seeing as a mediator or someone who is neutral? If you go back, initially there was this phobia, even before access to finance, but even depositing your money with any particular bank, it has been a challenge. And we are talking about a space of 30-something years. Now, in business growth, any business that is as old as 30 years, it is still young. Because now you're comparing yourself to a business of 50 years and above. So if you have been hesitant to deposit your finances with any particular bank, that shows you the phobia the bank also has towards you. When you're bringing in money, the first question they would ask, where is he getting this money? What kind of business is he running? Who are the financiers? Has he been paying taxes? So when the bank starts investigating into your businesses, then you are like, why am I going to this bank? So I'm giving you this to show what system, when we're talking about the ecosystem, the players in this ecosystem, are they at the same page? They speak the same language. are they going the same direction? There are those who come with short-term goals, support SMEs for purposes of getting additional finance, then I divert my business, I go into another things. There are those who come in targeting given sector, either it is girls in business, people with disabilities, different scenarios. But currently, if you look at the trend, there is a common understanding between the financiers and the clients, the loan takers, that at least they need a common understanding. At least now you can see there is a proper definition. The regulators, the central banks have put up guidelines of what should be done in terms of access to finance. No, even that someone talked about the language. It has been a challenge, I agree. Even me, when I want a loan as a CEO, at times I don't have time. I'll call CEO Karino, the equivalent CEO, and I say, I need, let me not mention it because you calculate my salary immediately. Then, so I need this amount. Can you help me? Then she or he will hand over the file to a staff. I'll go there to sign because I have additional tasks and I don't want to delay. During the payment process or when things go bad and I'm out of office, that's when I go back to the contract. Then you realize, yeah, I made it. No, I put a rope around my head. Difficulties have come. Now, because of these kind of challenges, the bank, the central bank, other key players have asked the banks at least to translate some of the languages, make them big. I know I had a conversation with some of the banks when they were told, translate all your contracts in 3 languages, English, Kinyarwanda, and I think French. And the banks were telling me, we need your intervention as a CEO of business operators. We cannot translate it to Kinyarwanda because we are dealing with additional third parties who don't understand these things. So it was a complex situation, but at least I was happy that all people were brought together and there is a conversation to understand there is someone else who needs to be taken care of in terms of understanding the commitment he or she is entering. Finally, in terms of stakeholders and ecosystem interventions, you have seen more people coming on board. Initially, you have been depending much on conventional bankings, the financial, microfinance, these conventional banks. But we have other players coming into the ecosystem. You have BPN, I'm sorry I'm not marketing for her, but at least they have contributed. You have Inhomoko, so you have Mastercard Foundation. So you have additional other key players coming in. I'm not a prophet per se, but when I was looking at the presentation, people who are getting money, SMEs, this micro SMEs, they are getting more access to finance from mobile money. Now, MTN, I think this mobile money things came in during COVID. That is when there was wider campaign for people to get money. That is something intervention of 5 years from now. You can easily send money to your grandma, to your mother, to your friend. Here, she can still borrow money from there. But if the banks and other key players are not going to alternate their way of doing things, then you are likely to see the banking sector, the banking services shift to the mobile money activities. So at least there are many key players coming on board and they are trying to facilitate the access to finance. That is what the economics, if other factors remain constant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. And thank you so much, Stephen. I know you sit on a base of entrepreneurs, both big, others are small. Now, how can we leverage large corporates as those we call big buyers to de-risk financing for small businesses? That is off the bank side, or it can be through the bank, or they can even offer. Have you seen that happening? Can we influence that? Thank you.
Influence, yes, it can be done. I started with the historical perspective, because I want to show you even the big ones, we say they are big, they are not that big. If I was allowed to mention names, the companies in existence which are 50 years and above, I don't think you may exceed 10. probably we have things like Bralua. No, let me not go into names. So if the burden, that's why you see when we are advocating for tax issues, we are asking widen the tax base. Don't target the small taxpayers, the group that we have. But be that as it may, I think something has to be done and can be done. One way is the colleague who mentioned taking on the capital markets, the listing, the stock exchange. If some of the shares can be listed from these big corporates, that allows now the SMEs, the young ones, to come and buy shares on the big corporates, and the dividends that are being brought out of stock exchange then can be invested in the small SMEs. Secondly, there are big corporates which are in services. When you're talking about the social corporate responsibilities, usually we see it as a cash contribution. You want the big corporates to contribute financially for supporting so and so. But the big corporates, if they can even train the small SMEs in things like tax bookkeeping, tax declaration and filing, that would be an additional support. Two, in these developed economies, you see big corporates starting on some businesses and then they sell off. So you come invest in agriculture because of the high risks in agriculture, because of the need of capital, because of the climate change. Once you see the business has been stabilized, then you let it off. So I believe those are some of the interventions which the big corporates can play.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And as the MC said, we're going to keep this conversation much more interactive. And we'll be coming back to the panel, but I want the audience to interact with the panel, but also to interact with the report and the findings and make some observations. Let me open up for some questions so that interaction can be influenced. But maybe before I go to the general question, later in the day, in the morning, I had a conversation with two young ladies. One was called Laisa and another one called, I think, Angelique. But I want to bring Laisa on spot. Laisa urahari? Niba uhari, reka nkwereze amahirwe ya mbere. Kuko wavuze ibintu byiza, numvise byamfashe ku mutima. Reka tusangije urugendo rwawe mu munota umwe, kandi niba ufite ikibazo wabaza iyi pano nayo nabyo bitufashe mu bikore.
Urakoze. Ngiye kubasangiza urugendo rwanjye ntaramenyana na ESP. Nari umucuruzi umama ku muhanda ncuruza imbuto. Tugira amahirwe mu karere kacu ka Gakenke, ESP iradusanga iduha amahugurwa. Muri make ntabatindiye ibintu bikomeye nakuyemo. Nakoraga ubucuruzi imbere butanditse nkahomba, simenya aho nahombeye, simve kuri rev imwe mbe nagira ahandi. Mbese ubucuruzi bwanjye bukava mu mwaka umwe bukagera mu wundi nta kintu nigejejeho. Nkimara kubona amahugurwa, nize gukora ubucuruzi bwanditse, nkamenya nimba ari ibinyomoro na biranguye aya bivuyemo aya, amatunda ariyo bita passion fruit nkamenya ngo yavuyemo aya ngaya no yavuyemo aya. None hari ibintu duhura nabyo ku isoko, hakaba hari igicuruzwa kitagenda cyane. Iyo wanditse urakimenya ukagikuramo ugashora imbaraga mu bigenda. Icyo nicyo cya mbere nakuyemo. Icya kabiri nakuye muri ESP, nacuruzaga imbuto z'amoko abiri zera mu Gakenke, ari ibinyomoro n'amatunda. Ibinyomoro ari byo bita tomato. Nkimara kumenya na ESP, nakuriye amakuru ku bandi bacuruzi bo hanze. Urugero, nagiye kwa Mutangana, njya ni Musanze, nsanga bacuruza imyembe ituruka muri Tanzania ndetse n'imirundi. Nanjye ndayirangura nyongera mu bucuruzi bwanjye, nongeramo n'izindi mbuto z'ubwoko bwose n'amapapayi, abakiriya banjye bariyongera. Hagati aho rero hari imbogamizi twaje duhura nazo.
kuko banatubwiye gushaka amasoko yagutse tudakoreye mu karere ka Gakenke gusa. Nkanjye nakoze urugendo shuri njya mu karere ka Gatsibo mu isoko rya Rwagitima, mbona y'abakiriya bazaza barangurira umusaruro w'ibinyomoro n'amatunda. Naje kuganira nabo mbona bakeneye nk'ibiro 800, ibiro 500 by'ibinyomoro, ibiro 300 by'amatunda. Nza kugira imbogamizi y'igishoro, ari byo bahoze bari kuvuga nk'amabanke. Nkanjye ndi urubyiruko, nta ngwate ngira, muri make kubona ingwate biratugora. Ubwo abo bakiriya mfite nkomeje gato ntababeshye, ubu ntago mbona umusaruro wo kubaha kubera igishoro ntago nakibona. Ndacyacururiza kuri ka gasoko hamwe SP yadusanze, ariko muri make nabyita nko gupfana imishinga.
Urakoze Raisa. So, and thank you so much, please. So, what I wanted to show you is the impact of BDS on improving a vision of an entrepreneur, but also where now a problem comes in when access to finance for that improved market also becomes a roadblock for growth. So as we have this kind of deliberation, let us know the needs for Raisa, the needs for Angelique, and the needs for Bonnet and also Mary's as entrepreneurs. And then we move forward. So I'm opening up now the conversation by first come. Yes.
Nitwa Straton Habyarimana. Nagira ngo mbaze ikibazo cyanjye ndashaka kukibaza cyane cyane Karine. Tugenda tubona ibikorwa nyine nk'aba ba SP utanga buhamya butanzwe kuri SP, tubibona n'ahandi, tubona BPN, tubona Aceli, turimo turabona ko muri ecosystem abantu bareba ku ruhande rwa SMEs, MSMEs baragenda biyongera kandi bari gukora akazi keza cyane. Ariko niba mwibuka ikibazo Bonete yavuze ati nyamara turacyafite imbogamizi kubera ko ku ruhande rwo ku bigo by'imari ntago barabasha kutwumva neza no kumenya ibyo dukeneye. Baracyatubwira bati turaguha amafaranga yo gushora muri avoka tuzi ko yari imyaka 3, ariko bakakubwira bati udatangira kwishyura mu kwezi gutaha. Ikibazo rero nagira ngo nkigarure kuri Karine kubera ko hariya buriya niwe hagarariye wenda financial sector. Aho ntimwaba namwe mukeneye wenda yuko aba BDS bahindukira itorosho bakayibatungaho, namwe bakareba niba nta kintu babafasha cyane cyane nko muri product development, kumenya kwiga amasoko no gutega amatwi abakiriya banyu, noneho bya bindi muvanye mu kubatega amatwi mukaba noneho byatuma mukora za produits zijyanye kuko nibyo bakeneye kandi kuko zijyanyeho na characteristics za business zabo n'uburyo bw'imikorere yabo, cash flow etc. Nkeka yuko kimwe mu bisubizo twanabona muramutse mubateza amatwi harimo nicyo kuvuga ngo ubundi se niba tuzi neza yuko cash flow zose zigira seasonality wenda, ariko tukaba tuzi ko bazabona amafaranga igihe iki n'iki, ese ni ngombwa ko mbere yuko dutekereza ngo tubahe inguzanyo tubanza kumenya niba bafite ingwate? Ikibazo cyanjye cyari icyo.
Because I think we can continue dufata ibibazo nka bitatu and then tuze kubisubiza byose icyarimwe.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good presentations. My name is Benon. I'm an economist at the British High Commission. My question speaks about the cost of credit. Probably somebody from the banking institution. Data from the central bank shows that, if I'm wrong, maybe correct me, that banks borrow money from the central bank at an average of around maybe 6.5%, the discount rate. They lend to each other at 6.8, that is interbank rate. They lend to the final client at 16.2% on average. So we are asking, do banks have how do I say it? The goodwill to reduce the cost of lending to the private sector? If you borrow money from the central bank or amongst yourselves at 6.8 and lend to me at 16.2. Why don't we see a tendency to bring this as closer as possible? They make some reasonable, maybe profit, but not all that kind of margin. Somebody maybe from the bank can tell us the plans they have to bring this as close as possible to the bearable margins. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think my question will go to Karine. Livingstone did mention the partnership between BDS and the banks. I think in majority of the ecosystems that I have worked in, a lot of BDS providers are funded by development institutions, so through donors. Is there a commercial model that can work between banks or let's say the broader financial ecosystem and the BDS, so that BDS can prepare people, be paid for that work, and then that then goes back into preparing more ecosystem SMEs for sustainability purposes? Thank you.
I feel for Karine and I want to support her. Yes. So maybe let me start with the question that was just raised. It's a fair comment, and I'm very happy to say that this is exactly what is happening, and this is exactly why you see these logos here, ESP, BPN, IFR, and the Mastercard Foundation. So the Mastercard Foundation has empowered us or financed us to prepare SMEs who will be financed by another program. We have a fund, catalytic fund by the Mastercard Foundation. And additionally, there is a Kataza where financial institutions will finance those entrepreneurs that we are supporting. But mainly where I wanted to support Karine is, we said before, it takes a village to support an SME, and it takes a village to raise a child. Allow me to use the First Lady's recent article. She used exactly the same quote. She said, it takes a village to raise a child, and what type of village have we become? And I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves. And when talking about us as business development service providers, there's a lot we can improve. We see a lot of programs that are very generic. So everything is very academic or generic, and it's the same for everybody, and then does not provide the impact that the financial institutions would like to see. Or we go out there to those SMEs and we start suggesting them what they're supposed to do, though we are not always business people. Why don't you do this? Why don't you buy this? Why don't you invest in this? And those entrepreneurs maybe will do it because they believe in us. They go back to the bank and the bank would say, no, that is not viable. So we need to improve on the side of business development service providers, the quality, the professionalism, and the entrepreneurial mindset that we need to instill in those entrepreneurs. And on the side of the financial institutions, Karine was explaining the partnership, and it's crucial. The banks need us. At the same time, the banks also need to have that language and that understanding. When we prepare people and they are ready, you go to the bank and they're like, they don't see my potential. I'll end with an example of a small company. They went through the BPN program and they were indebted. They were bankrupt. And they went and they had taken a loan from a microfinance institution with over 30% interest rate, and they were just dying. And the interests were increasing, and no bank in Rwanda accepted to bear them out. They were like, please take it over and give it to 18% at least, but save us from this high interest rate. Nobody in Rwanda accepted. Finally, they found a bank. A CEO from Burundi saw them and said, you guys, I see you, I see your passion, and I'm going to take the risk on you. And that CEO of a bank in Burundi took over that loan, gave and told them, if after 1 year you pay me on time, I will go down from 12% to 10% to give you a chance to survive and grow. And this company has grown. They paid the whole loan. They're loan free, and they have grown to 7 different branches in the whole country. They employ more than 70 people. So we need to see that potential. We need to be able to look at SMEs individually. We need to take time to understand the different industries. What people in the creative industry need is not what is agriculture need. We just heard it. So I think that there is a work that can be done. Sounds like a big investment, sounds like a lot of work, but the return on investment is huge. And that's what we need to be focusing on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aris, for that clarification and intervention. And Karine, I don't know what you're going to do, but all questions came to you because I think no one wanted to ask Mary's or Bonnet because they feel their pain. But of course, starting with Strato and going to Benon, the question on whether you also need BDS to improve on your product, and also the discounted rate from the central bank versus the rate you lend to yourselves within banks, and also the rate you lend to your customers who are MSMEs. And I think on the BDS commercial model, Alice has tried to tackle that. You may not go there, but please, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And really, this is an important point. As we rightly said from the beginning, we're really all growing and evolving. As a nation, I think today we can say that we're 30 years, and there's where we were and where we're going. So we continuously try to improve our business understanding and our sector's understanding. Yeah, as a bank, as banks, we cannot pretend that we understand all the sectors very well. So it's true, we actually work with development finance institution that gives us lines of credit coupled with technical assistance to help us structure our products better to serve specific sectors. So today in banks, you will find many banks that have agribusiness desks that try to understand the cycle of the agriculture sector or farmers, so that they're able to come up with products that speaks to these businesses. So you're totally right. We continue to do that. We also, as a bankers association, have different programs that we keep improving and evolving to ensure that we improve the capacity of our teams so that they can understand the different business. So we will never get to a point where we say that we are really expert in everything. It is evolving, and we continuously improve that. And what I also want to say is it's important still that to know that we have to carry that burden as an entire ecosystem, because the banks would need to work with all the different partners, including the SACCOs and the sectors. This is what we actually do to ensure that we understand exactly how some sectors operate. Yeah, so you're totally right. We get that support, and this is continuous. From a cost of financing, I think we need to understand. I would like to explain what is the central bank rate and what does it do. We rarely borrow from the central bank. The reason why the reference rate is there is to ensure, because remember, at the end of the day, banks use depositors' money to facilitate lending. So the central bank window comes in when a bank has an immediate need to satisfy the liquidity, but it is really a short-term window. That means that the 7% you're talking about is a window we use when we need 5 days or 7 days liquidity to help us balance our liquidity. So it is not really that we borrow from the central bank to lend on the market. So there's a lot of things that come up to the cost of financing. We talked about low savings. We have today money from institutions that that are in the market that we actually borrow from them to satisfy our lending needs at 11%. Yeah. So because they have the capacity to give us money for 2 years, to allow us, most of the borrowers today, when they come, they want money for minimum a year or 3. Even today with mortgage, 20 years. But nobody is willing to give us a deposit for 20 years. So we need to find alternative borrowings, and we go to development finance institution that can give us 5 years money to balance our books so that you're able to lend. So that's one. I think low cost of savings is continuously improving. We're reaching 37%. I think GDP is the target to GDP, savings to GDP. That's why we continue encouraging people to keep money in the ecosystem, because the more money is kept in the system for long, would also impact positively the cost of financing. Secondly, is also the cost of serving. We all talked about today, if you're asking for a 500,000 loan and someone else is asking for a 5 million loan, the cost of processing those loans are the same. You know, the entire process. So we are more and more using technology to help us to be more efficient, so that it also lower the cost of giving the banking services, and that also would definitely continuously have a direct impact on the cost of lending. So I also want to indicate that we've seen bank lending rate going down. I think the latest report from the central bank has shown that, and that is really part of the journey where we want to see, yes, lending rate at a reasonable level, because when you're going to say high or low, it is very subjective sometimes. It depends on who's looking at it. But yes, we're continuously working to ensure that we have a reasonable cost of financing, but it's a shared effort, as I explained. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think you did well explain and respond to the questions, and also the promise that the lending rate also coming down. We observing it on the market. I don't know, my director of ceremony, how many minutes do we have? Can we take 2 questions or we get back to the panel?
Maybe we can take one last question and then we get closing remarks from the panelists.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Marie-Florence Ouimana. I am Tea House Boutique Hotel, Restaurant and Workspace founder and manager. And yes, I'm very happy to be here. And yes, mine, let's say it's mostly like a question, it's like a story. So we are into business in the hospitality industry since 2016. Next year we will be in the business in the industry, hospitality industry, for 10 years old. Since 2020, before the COVID, we wanted to expand, because after 5 years of experience, we see that the business is growing very well, and we are opening a different branch because the demand for a homestay experience was really requested. And so wanted to expand, but unfortunately COVID came, and so we went back a little bit. So my question is, actually the demand is here. We have many calls, because actually we have 10 rooms. Before we used to have 2 branches. Actually we have 2 branches, 1 boutique hotel, 1 restaurant and workspace. And during this year, I tried to get my own my own property, because one of the challenge in our industry is when you rent, you invest a lot of money. Sometimes then the landlord decide to kick you off or to do the same business as you because, you know, it's not your property. So the main goal is this year was to get our own property. And actually we have our own property. So now the challenge is we have our own property. We have a business that is generating profit. Actually, we have only 10 rooms, but we have a demand for more than 20, 30 rooms. And when I contacted different architects, we have a project. We are close to Zaria Court. We are in a very good location. So we have the budget to build a boutique hotel with 30 rooms, business facilities, spa, and so on. It should be around 1.5 million USD. And when you go to the bank, you say you show your project, you have your business plan and everything, and they told you, okay, you have to finance 30% of that amount. So mostly around 500 USD. So this is my question. We have banker here. We have. What should I do? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
There's a young person who keeps waving at me, and I think maybe we can give him 1 minute.
Okay.
Ndabasuhuje. My name is Bintan Shuti. I am the founder of OCADRE, a disability-led initiative that goes to deal with inclusion and advocacy for people living with disability. I would like to first say thank you for the insights that have been shared here today. It's encouraging to see the commitment in this room to build a stronger and more inclusive economy. When you speak about access to finance, we recognize that there's barriers for entrepreneurs. But I believe that for people with disabilities, these barriers are multiplied due to lack of access to formal education, exposure to formal business practices. Sorry. I am also aware that people with disability are viewed as a risky group when it comes to both credit and investment. There have been measures put into place to bridge the knowledge gap. There's financial literacy programs. But the question is, what next after that? The country director of BPN, Alice, she spoke of being heard and being seen. Now, my question is, are there deliberate strategies that have been put or that are being developed so that people with disabilities can be meaningfully included in MSME financing programs? Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. And I think we will end on that when it comes to getting questions from the audience. Maybe on the last question, I'll ask Vivian Kaites, the country lead for ESP, bring on spot to talk about the inclusion question the young man has put forward. I know you quoted Alice, but since you're neighbors, kindly respond.
Yeah, and as we come to her, there's someone also from BDR who also wanted to share on also the
Thank you very much. I wanted to also make an intervention regarding on people with disabilities. I'm Dennis Mujutia from BRD, Strategy, Research, Monitoring and Evaluation. To give you comfort is that the financial sector is 100% aware of the challenge regarding people with disabilities in accessing finance. Working with Mastercard on Kataza program, we really looked at how we were facing the challenge on missing the target with people with disabilities due to multiple challenges that are involved within the ecosystem. But now we've looked at conducting a study on mapping people with disabilities and the areas of their concentration and the kind of businesses they are doing and institutions that are serving them, that we can build clear pathways that are designed to help to have proper interventions for them to access finance. We believe once this is done, we've begun with 15 districts that we are operating in Kataza program. And after that, we believe that it will be carried out around the whole country, and we will be able to locate each people with disabilities and every sector that they're involved in, that our financial interventions are really targeting them to the last mile. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you. Over to you, Vivian.
Thanks, Ngosi, for putting me on the spot. As Grow to Scale, as most of you know, that we are working with a consortium lead, AFR as a consortium lead. The targets for supporting entrepreneurs also includes persons with disabilities. We have, in whatever we do as we support MSMEs, we have to ensure that the jobs that are created, our total target is about 44,000 jobs to be created in the next 5 years up to 2028. 7% of these would need to be persons with disabilities. We are currently working with an organization called NUDOR. It's an umbrella organization that works with the different NGOs and organizations that support persons with disability. At TSP, we are already working with persons with disabilities. And we're intentional about going out there and getting these entrepreneurs that we can support. So Binta, to answer your question, please come and see us, speak to us about the business you're doing and the entrepreneurs that you're working with. And we really are there to support PWDs as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vivian, for responding to that inclusive question. And coming back to my panelists, and I think I'll start with you, Stephen. If you to make any commitment, and I'm not putting on spot, on any policy shift in terms of advocacy and how best MSME can improve, gain access to finance, what would be the commitment of the private sector federation, maybe in the next 3 months?
That is a quarterly. I don't know if 3 months is a quarterly. I would prefer the last quarter so that the first and we are better off.
Yeah.
Well, I would want to see the shift from the conventional collateral requirements because from the room alone, you have heard that is the main challenge people are facing. So if they can divert and look into other forms of collateral. But even then on a collateral basis, if they can also reduce on the value ratio, because today if you're going for a loan, they will tell you this project, say it's 40 million, the equivalence of the collateral could be 40 and above. So if we can look into all those shifts, that would be good. But let's not focus on financing banks only, but also on the side of the borrowers as well. CEO Access to Finance mentioned about the fear. Beaten once, twice is shy. So I think there is a reason why the banks or the financial institutions or even other disease stakeholders have a fear towards some borrowers. It's because of the loyalty and the honesty that they are coming up. So if for the the borrowers also could try to improve on some of their performances, then I believe the system would work properly because this is an ecosystem. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen. I think that is a good ask. And I think there are people who are willing to come together and put a policy paper to the central bank through your advocacy team. So thank you so much for that. Bonnet, Orao. Yes. So I just wanted you to make one ask, either from the side of the financial institution, or policymakers, or BDA service provider. What is that one ask they can help you with so that you can improve your business, but also the likes of many of you who are young entrepreneurs that are struggling in different ways?
Okay, thank you. it will be more than one ask uh, to partners as in Mastercard and the partners. We rural farmers, we need more than financial support. As in, hari nk'igihe uba utekereza ko ukeneye amafaranga wenda miliyoni 20, ariko really nagenda bibonye turi muri grow to scale, really nasabaga miliyoni 100, ariko nasanze ntabwo arizo nari nkeneye. So hari abandi bahinzi cyangwa abandi ba farmers na entrepreneurs batekereza ko aricyo cya mbere dukeneye ariko si cyo. So the trainings muduha ni nziza, ariko nanone create a path y'ukuntu twagera kuri iyo financial support. Nimba mvuye Kirehe, hari abaturutse Rusizi, hari abaturutse Cyangugu cyangwa ahandi, aba yagize umwanya transport, mostly ntabwo tugira wenda hano aba relatives, then uri bushaka accommodation just kugira ngo ubone iyo training. Ariko at the end maybe training wenda uyikoze for 6 months cyangwa say for 1 year, and then you end up without even gaining any financial support. Kandi iyo utangiye barakubwira ngo tuzagufasha kubona amafaranga, which is aricyo wenda cyo kidusunika cyane, ariko nicyo kiba ari interest yacu cyane. So the training should create a path ku buryo n'ubundi ninyisoza nzagira ikintu financial gaining. Also to financial institutions, we know we are not perfect, nta n'ubwo ibintu turi kubikora nk'uko mubikeneye, ariko still turi gukora. Icyo twatangiye gifite value, so count for the muhe value y'ikintu turi gukora. Uvuga nimba ngusabye miliyoni 10, umbwira ati ngendeye ku bintu uri gukora ndaguha 2, nuzisoza nguha izindi. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, you're talking on behalf of many. Uri kuvugira benshi cyane.
Ego benshi.
Yeah. So, our dear Marys, over to you. What is that parting shot and ask? But also being a large aggregator, what could be your extra contribution to the risk finance for small businesses?
So no, thank you for the question. Actually, my ask, and that will help support the banking sector here as well. So from our scale, and especially the ambition of our scale, my ask to the financial institution is, again, how can we plug in to the bigger vision? The bigger vision, because we're all being asked to be bold, to have big ambitions, and bigger vision. But we must make sure also that there is financial, how these big ambitions and bolder visions are going to be financed. So that's the first ask, a bigger discussion about that. And maybe on that, and this is what I said, we'll help the banks call up to the whole word of the financial, sorry, I'm losing my word. Banks are not the only financial institutions. For bigger vision, bolder steps, we need venture capitalists, we need private equity, we need alternative funding, because at the end of the day, it's true that the bank, usually you go to banks for growth, not at the beginning of an idea. And let's make sure we find the right solution to make sure that the bigger vision and the bolder vision is not going to be driven by collaterals, but by ideas and entrepreneurs, because money alone will not drive the economy. It's the opposite. And maybe I will conclude by saying that Nicolas Sarkozy, the French president, said something very correct one day. He said, ce n'est pas l'argent qui fait le projet, c'est le projet qui fait l'argent. So, and I think this is how people get to bolder and bigger vision. It's the project that should bring the money, that should attract the money. It's not the money that is going to attract the project.
Thank you so much. And on the last one, many people understood it, not the money that will attract the project. Maybe you can repeat it further, not in French.
Oh, okay. So it's the project. A good project should and will always attract the money, and it's not the opposite. It's not the money, and maybe in our case, because we've talked a lot about collateral, it's not the collateral that is going to attract the project. It is the money. It is the project that should attract the money.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I think you deserve a very huge hand clap for that. So, over to you, Karine. And I'm not going to put you on the spot for a 1.1 million USD.
So on the, I think I'll just ask her to meet my colleague Dieudonné, who's there after the session, so that.
Dieudonné, please stand up.
Yeah?
Oh yes, the money is there. So yes, over to you.
I won't take long. What we've heard today is clear. We take that feedback. We don't want to look like we are trying to be defensive. We acknowledge that there are gaps. We are committing that we'll continue innovate, continue transform how we do business, and really look at the business, as Marie's saying, and not so much as a collateral first. And really, we also, I just want to commit that we know for a fact that SMEs are the backbone of our economy. So willing to contribute and to ensure that they actually become the real drivers of our transformation. So that is our commitment.
Thank you so much, Karine. And thank you so much to the panelists. But through you, Karine, I know you're the deputy chair of the Bankers Association. Allow me and accept to put Tony on 1 minute spot as the deputy chair, because he has just launched the State of the Banking report, and the bank is stable, the assets are growing, but SMEs are saying they're not getting money from the banks. What is the report saying? Just in 1 minute.
Thank you, Livingston, for putting me on spot. As we saw, the state of the banking industry showed that banks are resilient, efficient, and also very stable and liquid. So, as Karine mentioned, every time we learn, every time we study what should be better, and also doing those conversations, especially launching those state of the banking industry, was really for the industry, but also the market to kind of come together on the table and discuss. That was really the primary source of launching those state of the banking industry. But we are still progressing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And one last one to the MD of Aceli. I know your agricultural portfolio guarantee has been good, and most banks have taken the portfolio guarantee and signed up. But based on what Bonnet was saying, the small ones seems not to be seen when it comes to the guarantee mechanism. What are those mechanisms that you're working on to make sure that the likes of Bonnet business are also seen and served by the commercial banks?
Yeah, thank you very much, Livingston. I think it's been a really fascinating discussion across the course of this morning. I think one of the things which at Aceli we have realized is that the banks are in a bit of a bind situation with regards to the regulations that govern the way how they do business. So my colleague Janet talked about the paper that we did on central bank regulations, and this is something which we're going to be continuing to work more heavily with the likes of AFR and the Bankers Association to try and understand and to support the government in the development of a framework that then allows and creates space for the banks to be able to lend more to SMEs. So that's the way we're going to go forward over the coming months and years ahead. But thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you so much for accepting to put you on spot since you came all the way from Nairobi to attend to this. And also, I didn't want to bring Janet back here to make a presentation because she had already made a very good presentation, and she's my former colleague. So, so allow me to take this moment to thank our amazing panel. Thank you so much, and the audience, please join me to thank them. Yeah. Please allow us to leave.
Thank you so much. But before you leave, we're going to capture this moment and take a group photo. If we could please have the photographers come, and then we'll just capture what has been discussed and really try and just frame it. If we could have the photographers kindly come to the front. As we said, the MSME Growth Symposium is the first time that it's happening, but we hope that it will be an annual event. So we'll be looking back at this picture, remembering the conversations that we had and holding ourselves accountable, asking the questions, what have we achieved since this inaugural event? Thank you. Thank you. The photographers are happy. Thank you. Let's appreciate one more time our moderator and our panelists for this incredible discussion that they've had. Very, very informative. Thank you all. We're now going to proceed and invite our keynote who's going to be giving us the closing remarks, and he will also officially be launching the MSME Growth Symposium. So help me welcome to the stage Mr. Alexis Kawaiza, Chief Technical Advisor, Ministry of Trade and Industry, Rwanda.
I think it's a good afternoon now. Distinguished guests, partners, ladies and gentlemen, let me step in on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Seva His Prudence, who would be here and joined us, but due to conflicting agenda, he could not join us. But I believe that he has promised that he is determined and committed for implementation of the resolutions from discussions today. Let me first, on behalf of himself and the ministry, to provide you or to read the remarks of closing these sessions from today. I wish to begin by recognizing the active participations of all of you from your respective institutions, governments, partners, financial institutions, private sector, business development services, and in particular our entrepreneurs for your time and valuable contribution today. In particular, I commend the findings presented to us from here. I believe everyone has taken a feedback and a commitment and a role for moving the MSMEs forward. We've heard today that MSMEs are truly the backbone of our economy. The findings have shown this and statistics. Today, we are counting more than 265 entrepreneurs, and this is, we've shown it's around an equivalent 99.8%. Almost every enterprise that we are having belongs to this category. When we speak about jobs, industrialization, when we talk about the export increasing, when we talk about the inclusions, we speak about these SMEs. The symposium today really has demonstrated the partnership that needs everyone is here to take note of. We've seen that on the report, from the report of 2024 MSMEs MAP report, we've seen the gap that we're having, which is reflecting to the existing challenges for this category of the MSMEs. If we say about 83% that are financially included, and we still counting 17 excluded, 17%. This is a big number in the economy. If we are talking about 81 that are using formal services, and yet 23 are still using informal services, this means a lot. If we are to do anything, we have to start from today. Unlocking capital for SMEs is therefore not just a financing issue. For the government, it is in our national development priority. Under our national economic transformation phase 2, we are heading and committed to have 1.25 million productive jobs to be created. We are also talking about jobs, youth, women. But this, we are all expecting that to be driven by the private sector. This is, again, means a lot. When MSMEs have access to finance, our economies become stronger, more resilient, and better able to withstand shocks. But success will only come through collective efforts. No single actor can unlock the potential of MSMEs alone. It requires both of us, starting from the government, private sector, investors, development partners, financial institutions, but more importantly, the efforts of our entrepreneurs. On behalf of the ministry, I congratulate the organizers of this inauguration MSMEs Growth Symposium. And I thank all participants for your valuable contribution. Let us make a commitment that this platform becomes not just an event, but an annual flagship, a place where we will track the progress, share lessons, and commit to bold actions for this MSME's growth. And so as I conclude, I issue a clear call of actions. First of all, the policymakers, that of course we have to refine regulations and continue enabling environment, including the digital that we've seen that is proven the increase in MSMEs revenues grows by 25%. But for financial institutions, from today's discussions I've said, but I want to repeat it, that please make efforts to understand and align products, financial products, with the findings and discussions and the summits that we've received from entrepreneurs today. To the entrepreneurs also, use the knowledge, starting connections that made from here today, so that you can tailor your services, and if your voice continue raised up, then with the evidence that we have heard today, it will remain powerful to respond to your needs. Together, let us unlock the full potential for Rwandese MSMEs, because in empowering them, we empower our livelihood, we empower our economy, and we empower our future. Thank you very much. Murakoze cyane.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your closing remarks. We appreciate having you here with us. We also appreciate what the partnership and the effort that the Ministry of Trade and Industry is really putting to continue driving and bridging the gaps that are within the sector. This formally wraps up our program for today. Before we walk out, I'd just like to mention we do have an exhibition outside. Some of our MSMEs did come with a few of their products to showcase what they're doing. We have agricultural products. We also have some made in Rwanda sports jerseys. So please feel free, purchase something, or even just give them a word of encouragement. You know, it will go a long way. And in case you did miss any of the presentation, we have a QR code right on the screen that you can scan. You can be able to look through some of the presentations that we got earlier today. And once again, we also just wanted to recognize the organizers of this inaugural MSME Growth Symposium. It is organized by Rwanda's Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Mastercard Foundation and Access to Finance Rwanda, in partnership with ES partners, BPN and Aceli Africa. Thank you.